Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
AJ felt something heavy in his chest before he even opened his eyes. It was the weight of yet another letter, and it was just as heavy as when he woke up to find that his nightmare was real. Deborah Linden called her husband right away and sat with him, tears running down her face as he quietly cried next to her. Pam Thompson rushed in from the cottage, her husband urging her to go ahead while he asked the physiotherapist to help him to the lounge of the bed and breakfast as fast as they could. He cried out when Deborah, Pam, and Fred helped him into room 103. The sight of the picture of him and his loved one on the mirror hit him hard. Deborah opened the empty room 101, and together they carried him inside. Fred sat in a chair, saying nothing at first as AJ tried to hold back his tears. "Let it out, John," Fred finally said, his voice shaky as tears streamed down his face. "Please, let it out. Scream if you need to." For a whole week he cried nonstop, feeling exhausted, unable to eat more than a few bites, and only managing to sleep for about 30 minutes at a time. Rachel Smith quickly booked a first-class seat on a plane from Qatar. James arrived at the airport 2 hours early, so he could share a ride with her. Rachel told him he should have rushed to comfort their younger brother, and they both knew she was being hard on him. So he wrapped his arms around her, and she held him tightly, crying, before they got into the rental car for Camberley. AJ was in and out of sleep when Rachel entered room 101. Pam Thompson was there, keeping him company. Pam recognized Rachel, seeing the family resemblance, and quietly left the room after giving them an encouraging squeeze on their arms. When AJ woke up to see his mother looking down at him with tears in her eyes, he could no longer hold back his emotions. He cried as she held him close and gently rocked him like a child. James sat beside them, resting a hand on AJ's shoulder, feeling uneasy as he watched his usually strong brother break down. He had worked hard to manage his jaw clenching, but it returned in times of stress. The last time AJ heard that sound from James was during their Uncle Gary's funeral. Juliana Mancuso Julia brought food for the three of them. "You are, Mother?" she asked Rachel. "He is a good man," Julia managed to say, struggling with her emotions. "She loves him so much." Then she burst into tears. "He loves her too. I'm so sorry." Rachel, still holding her son, reached out a hand to Julia, who took it tightly as she cried. Julia then held out her other hand to James, who also took it so she could share her sadness. "You make him eat, okay?" Julia asked Rachel before leaving. "He is not eating enough." Rachel did just that, encouraging AJ to finish his soup and eat some bread. He tried to refuse at first, but with both Rachel and James saying they wouldn't eat if he didn't either, he finally agreed. James got room 102 for the night, while Rachel decided to stay in 101, listening to her son awaken from troubled dreams, trying to suppress his sobs, feeling embarrassed. AJ found out it was Fred who had called their mother, having saved her number. She then called James right away. He had been getting ready to board a helicopter but canceled his plan so he could rush to the airport for the first flight home. He held back his tears during a visit from Bill. Randall came with a sad Sarah. Randall said little, but his eyes were red. Mike came with Greta, who hugged AJ tightly and cried. Jason and Kate arrived with Aaron and David. The boys shook AJ's hand seriously, shocked by the harshness of loss. When a crying Talana arrived with her mother, AJ couldn't hold back his tears either. He remembered them standing on stage together, nervous yet brave as they gave a presentation, feeling proud as Talana grew confident and impressed their audience. He thought of her flushed cheeks, the joy and relief she felt after finishing, and the warmth he experienced knowing Amaya Paolini cared for him. Messages from her team also came in. With the exception of Talana, none of them lived nearby. Joran and Leanne cried in their video messages, while Rowley sent a heartfelt note. Ben Thompson arranged to trade shifts, arriving earlier for the holidays. He exchanged greetings with Talana and her mother after being introduced to Rachel and James. He learned about her presentation at the Trade and International Relations faculty dinner and how James had coached them from afar. Ben wrapped AJ in a big hug, tears in his eyes. Belly Thompson, however, never cried in front of him. Each time she visited his room, her eyes were swollen and red. She hugged him tightly, asking if he had eaten before pleading with him to eat and get some rest. Then his mother arrived to take care of him, and AJ saw less of her in those heavy moments. Lost in his sadness, AJ felt his mother's absence more when Ben showed up, and he realized he hadn't seen her in days. Belinda Thompson was enjoying another cup of tea in her room when the knock came. She jumped at the noise, thinking it would be her mother's voice next. Belly? It was not her mother. Open up. She knew he wouldn't leave like her mother would, allowing her to remain in her silence. He wasn't built that way. Even while feeling upset, she felt a little better when she got up to open the door for her brother. He picked her up in a friendly way, joking about how much bigger he was, and she squealed in surprise as he stepped into her room. "You're early," she said, sitting on her bed with her legs crossed. He shrugged as he sat on a stool. "Mom told me what happened. I wanted to be here for John. I switched shifts with the other team leads." He shook his head slowly, sadness in his eyes. "I can't believe she's gone." She looked down at her knees. I can't either. It doesn't seem real." "Rachel and James are really nice," Ben said. "Actually, they're great." Belly pressed her lips together and nodded. She was surprised by how much she liked meeting John's mother. Belly had felt an instant connection with Rachel Smith, especially the sight of her softly resting her hand on John's neck while he slept peacefully. She remembered Amia talking about how graceful and funny Rachel was, and how she had liked James right away. By then, Amaya was already taken with him, but the warm welcome from his family had made her feel accepted. "John asked about you," Ben said next. "He wanted to know if you were okay. He said he hadn't seen you in days." And there it was, the reason she had been avoiding everyone. John Smith cared about her, even in his sadness. Seeing him hurt because of another person, because of Amaya, had made her feel jealous, and she did not like that feeling. But it was another feeling that made her choose to keep her distance. She rushed home when her mother called with the news. The students were on break, but teachers were busy with planning and reports. "Amaya?" she thought, tears starting to fall. No, not Amia. Their friendship had been growing slowly. She had held back a little to keep things simple with John in case their relationship didn't work out. But she had seen Amaya too many times laughing and talking with her family. So she mourned for the wonderful young woman who touched many hearts, including hers, as she drove home. She parked beside a small car and hurried inside the bed and breakfast. Everything faded when she saw John's face, filled with shock and sorrow, and in the next moment, she held him tightly. In that moment, she realized she loved him. But then shame washed over her. She felt bad and stepped back, thinking he would be too lost in his sadness to notice her. But he did notice. "Why are you staying away, Belly?" asked Ben quietly. "I'm not." She tried to deny it. He laughed lightly, reminding her they were close in age and he was very observant. I don't want him to see." She hesitated, biting her lip. "That you care about him? More than just a friend?" her brother asked. "That I'm a mess," Belly said. "That I'm not a good person." Ben looked puzzled. Why would he think that? Shame filled her as she spoke. "When Mom told me, when I got here, when I saw him, I felt so wrong. But I was happy. I was happy Amaya was gone so I could have him." She looked up carefully, afraid of what her brother might think. But he looked at her without judgment. "So you're human, right?" Belly hadn't expected that. Then she realized she should have. "Sorry to say, little sister, but we all have our moments," he said gently. "It was just a moment, wasn't it?" Belly nodded. Ben shrugged. There are worse things than liking a good guy. "He's always on my mind," Belly admitted softly. "If I spend any more time with him..." She glanced at him helplessly. "And now, with Amaya gone, I want to help him feel better." Ben looked at her in silence for a moment before taking a deep breath. "Amaya is gone," he said. "I wish she wasn't. I know you feel the same. But she's not here." He paused to gather his thoughts. "The truth is, any connection she had with John is over." He looked at her seriously. She quickly let go of her boyfriend's hand, ran to one of the officers, and cried hard. The surprised boyfriend tried to leave, but was stopped by another officer who held him back. Hours later, the operation against the group of traffickers was successful. Many people were arrested, including the boyfriend. Petra's mother and sister reached the embassy safely while she was later taken across the country for a trial that led to serious consequences for many involved. 4 years later, having learned English and set aside her dreams of modeling and dancing, she worked as a cleaner in a hotel. One day, she met Gary Bradmore, who came to fix a problem that had affected several rooms. She met him on the balcony while taking a break. He asked for a cigarette, and she offered him one of her last. He suggested a new lunch as a way to say thank you. Petra chose lunch. 6 months later, they were married, and after 4 years, she became a mother of 3. When his 2 nephews came to stay, she found herself caring for 5 kids. As she held AJ, she thought, "Oh, my sweet boy, I'm so sorry." After that, she shared her feelings. Rachel, who had called her, sighed at her sister-in-law. "You know it's not nice to criticize someone in front of their family, right?" Petra replied quickly. "Is there a better way to say it?" Rachel rubbed her forehead in frustration. "That's not something anyone wants to hear, Petra." James tried not to laugh as Petra glared at them all. "Why didn't you tell me about her, AJ?" She said the name with clear frustration. Rachel had told her not to mention the woman's name, and Petra had promised to follow that advice. AJ saw that she was truly hurt, and he regretted not being honest with her. He had called her a few times in the past months, but always kept it short, avoiding the topic. Now, he knew he needed to explain everything that had happened: the coffee shop, the letter, the rings, and how his life had changed completely. "How could she do that?" Petra exclaimed, her anger clear as tears rolled down her cheeks. "I'm going to—" Rachel reached out to hold her hand. "I think this is why he didn't want to tell you." Petra fell silent, clenching her fists. She nodded for him to keep going. AJ told her how he had taken the train and ended up in Camberley. He paused. "Then I got some drinks, checked into a room, and lost myself in them." Petra had strong feelings about alcohol. It had caused her pain. She lost her father and brother to drinking, and during one of the toughest times in her life, she had trusted someone who let her down. She had cried, promising to help her family back home when they said goodbye at the airport. Every meeting after that had left her with deep hurts, including the person who had brought her to the U.S. She had accepted Gary's offer of lunch because she felt lonely. She agreed to another date when he mentioned that he didn't drink anymore. The following dates felt comforting, making her feel beautiful and whole again after many years. One day she summed up her past for Gary, saying, "I went through a lot." He had listened without judging her, and when he proposed weeks later, she was filled with emotion. Years later, she felt that same emotion returning home early to find AJ and James sharing drinks. Now, she glared at AJ. "So you thought I would be mad at you for finding comfort after what happened? Have you lost your mind?" "He didn't want to let you down, Petty," Rachel added gently after a moment of silence. Petra looked away, mumbling softly. Then she turned back to AJ, holding his hand. "So, what happened next?" AJ shared how he met Amaya Paolini, how she brought healing into his life, and how he had fallen in love. They planned their future together, talking about moving in and building their life. He revealed that she had agreed to be his wife. Even though he tried to stay calm, his feelings showed once again. Rachel watched Petra walk around the room, sensing her distress. After many years, she recognized Petra's anger, the whispers in Latvian, tense shoulders, and tight fists. That woman, Rachel noted how intense Petra was feeling. "And she had the nerve to ask if he was okay?" Petra shouted, losing some of her words in her anger. Rachel remembered telling Petra about both calls she received while away and what had happened. "I should have figured out something was wrong earlier," Petra declared, "with the new number. Those afternoon calls." Rachel shook her head gently. She knew her boys were smart, just like their uncle. She missed both of them greatly and wondered if there was a way for AJ to cope with his grief that they could help him with as men and fathers. "What was she like?" Petra suddenly asked. "This Amaya girl?" AJ had promised to introduce them after she returned from Marrakech. Now that would never happen. Rachel felt a wave of sadness wash over her again. "You should have seen the way she looked at him, Petty. Like she was the luckiest woman in the world." She sighed. "And the way he looked at her. It reminded me of Danny after they were born, of Gary on your wedding day. Petra tightened her fists as she sat down across from Rachel. Why is this happening to him? He is a good man. He doesn't deserve this. Rachel had to agree, recalling the moment he woke up and saw her, the deep sadness in his eyes. She had cried as he slept, angry at the world for hurting him. I have to go back soon, Rachel said quietly, hating to say the words. The sheikh had been very understanding, but her students, and therefore he, would be expecting her back. And James has to return too. I will stay for the week, Petra immediately replied. He needs family. Rachel squeezed Petra's hand gratefully. Thank you, Petty. Petra shrugged and brushed it off. What about the kids back home? Petra laughed softly. They're not kids anymore. Katerina is in university. She can take care of the house. Rachel smiled. So when will Mihail and Alana visit like Rena? 1 month, remember? Petra sniffed, and then smiled just a little. Spring. But don't tell them. A knock on the door interrupted them. Petra stood up and opened it. Deborah Linden stood at the door holding a basket. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. No, please come in, Rachel said, smiling at Fred Linden's wife. She appreciated her kindness since she had been there for her son. She introduced everyone. Your husband is nice, Petra said, honestly expressing what Rachel thought. But you are also kind to our son, so I won't try to take him away. Deborah laughed at the playful comment. Okay, Deborah said, shaking her head while still chuckling. Now that was a great way to break the ice. I really needed that after this week. Everyone's mood shifted a bit. John told me about you, Deborah said to Petra. He said you were married to his Uncle Gary. He cares for you a lot. Petra smiled. He is a good boy. I love him very much. Then Deborah seemed to remember the basket she had brought. She placed it on the table and announced, Julia sent this over for lunch. The wonderful smells coming from the basket filled the room. Petra looked puzzled. Is this not a bed-and breakfast? But you also serve lunch. Julia decided on her own that we should offer lunches and snacks for guests. Deborah shrugged. At first I thought we should stop, but then people started giving us good reviews. Now we are making money. She smiled. This is free for you, by the way. Julia loved Amaya. She cares for your son, too. Well, this is too generous, Rachel protested. You're not charging us for our rooms and now you're giving us lunch? Deborah looked at her thoughtfully. You have no idea, do you? Rachel frowned. No idea about what? What John did for this place, what he did for us. She was so used to calling him AJ that she felt another moment of confusion at the name John. Both she and Petra shook their heads in response to Deborah's question. Your son really saved this place, Deborah said quietly. When Don was hurt and the insurance company denied his claim. She paused to collect her thoughts. John came in here and was very upset in room 102. She pointed to the room. I checked him in myself and told Fred about him. Then Fred heard about the drinks from someone who sold them to him and got worried, so we came to check on him. It was very concerning. Rachel noticed Petra's hands tighten into fists, even as she held back tears. We helped him, Deborah continued. Then he talked to Fred about what had happened. He needed to share. She looked them in the eye. Fred told me everything. Rachel could see Petra's anger as she felt the same way, but they both nodded for Deborah to continue. Then he just started fixing everything. What do you mean? Petra asked, looking confused. Fixing what? Deborah shook her head with a smile. Everything. There was a lightning strike. It damaged all the electricals in the building. Deborah waved her hand around. Every power outlet, every appliance, except for the lights in this room and 103. Taking a deep breath, her eyes filled with tears. But more than that, Don was thrown across the room. He hit his head hard and was in a coma for weeks. The family couldn't fix anything because of the medical bills. She wiped her eyes. We were going to sell. Then John came. He repaired and rewired everything. He bought new TVs, lamps, and kitchen tools. He even taught my nephews about electrical work while doing it. Deborah's voice trembled. I still can't believe what he did. He spent so much money. He told Fred the money felt wrong to him, that he wouldn't use it for himself, but only to help others. So he spent it to help us. The check, Petra said, just as Rachel thought of it. Deborah nodded. That's why you're not paying for your rooms. This place means a lot to Don, Pam, and me. I grew up here. He brought it back to life for us. The three women sat in silence, broken by Deborah's soft sobs. You raised a wonderful son, she added. Stulbais mille puika, Petra whispered. It's more Gary and Petra here than me, Rachel said, reaching for Petra's hand. You laid the foundation, Rachel, Petra said, trying to find the right words, her feelings clear. I'm sorry you never got to meet Amaya, Deborah said mostly to Petra after a moment. She was such a beautiful person inside and out. He was very sad, and she brought joy back to his life. She loved him deeply, and it was lovely to see. She smiled sadly. I don't need to tell you how much he loved her. Stulbais milais puika, Petra repeated, tears in her eyes. Belly felt nervous as she walked from the cottage to the kitchen entrance at the back of the large Georgian building. Once again she held a basket and was heading to the same man's room. 101, she reminded herself, not 103. She had spent the last hour in the cottage's kitchen and then quickly showered to wash off the smell of cooking. She felt unsure about what to wear and wondered if she should do more than just put on some lip gloss. Stop it, she told herself. His fiancée had just passed away. He was heartbroken and still in shock. She was overthinking how to present herself. Despite Ben's direct words and his assurance that she had nothing to feel guilty about, she still felt a wave of shame and questioned if she should turn back. He was not alone. His mother was with him, and she worried that another woman would notice her hesitance. But knowing he was hurting made it hard to stay away, so she kept walking, tightening her jacket against the cold. Using her back key, just like last time, she entered the Bedan breakfast and paused to appreciate the kitchen's state. Julia had made the space her own and always kept it clean, even while cooking several dishes at the same time. Belly knew that both Julia and Deborah were skilled in the kitchen, but Julia was definitely the best. She shook her head, feeling thankful for John Smith. Standing in front of room 101, she thought about room 102, where she had first met him. Room 103 had completely changed how she saw him after he had worked hard to rebuild his life, only to have something important taken away. A wave of sadness rushed over her, reminding her that he was not alone. With a deep breath, she knocked on the door. Coming. A female voice replied unexpectedly. The door opened, and Belly felt a sense of disappointment wash over her when she saw a tall brunette standing there, smiling curiously. He found someone already, she thought to herself. Hello? Can I help you? The woman asked, her Eastern European accent clear. I'm Belly. She stammered, unsure if she was in the right place. I'm looking for John? The woman looked confused for a moment, but then smiled and said, Oh, he is here. Come in. As Belly entered the room, she relaxed, seeing cards spread across the bed and in everyone's hands. AJ sat against the headboard, while his mother was cross-legged in one corner, and James was lounging at the foot of the bed. There were cards lying face down where the woman had been seated. Oh, hi. Rachel Smith greeted her with a bright smile. Hello, Belly, said James. John gave her a small, genuine smile that made her feel a little flutter in her chest. Rachel continued. Petty, this is Belinda Thompson, Don and Pam's daughter. We call her Belly. I heard that, the woman Petra said a bit teasingly. Rachel rolled her eyes and introduced Belly. She's their Aunt Petra, my brother Gary's wife. She's competitive but fun. Petra shot Rachel a playful glare, which Rachel ignored. It's nice to meet you, Belly said to Petra, feeling a bit shy under her watchful gaze. Then Petra's expression softened. Ah, the teacher. AJ did not tell me you were so lovely. Belly felt her cheeks warm up even more, remembering that John was called AJ, but before she could respond, Petra reached for her basket. Did you bring food too? She asked with curiosity. Yes, Belly replied. I made Thai food. There should be enough for everyone. You made Thai food, Rachel said, surprised. That is too much, Petra exclaimed, still taking the basket from her. "Sit down. I will serve." "Better than this," she nodded towards James. "This mischievous one," James laughed. "Aunt Petty can't stand losing." "You'd think she would be used to it by now," John added. "You misbehaving boys," she playfully admonished the two brothers, who were chuckling. "Do you play rummy, dear?" Rachel asked Belly casually. "James is just beating us all." Belly smiled. "I've played before. I'm not very good." "That means you can take my place and let them win while I serve food," Petra interrupted. "Let me help," Belly started. "No," Petra said firmly. "I'm tired of sitting with someone who's not honest." She glared playfully at James, who was smirking. "Besides, you cooked, so sit down." "It's not nice to brag, James," his mother said gently. James just grinned wider. "But she makes it so much fun." Belly watched them all laugh, even Petra, even John. She took a seat where Petra had been, while Petra busied herself serving the food. Luckily, the disposable plates and utensils came in packs of 6. James dealt her into the game, and when she looked up, she caught John watching her over his cards. "Thank you for coming," he said softly. "How is he doing this to me?" she thought, feeling her mouth go dry. Her last boyfriend, Jeff, made everyone take notice. But John was different. He made her feel a warm connection. A surge of guilt hit her then. She remembered Ben saying that Amia was gone. "You're welcome," she replied, meaning it in many ways and hoping he would understand. He smiled back at her. "You're going to be okay, right?" James asked. AJ nodded. Rachel had already left with tears in her eyes, asking him to visit her in Doha. Now James was about to leave as well. Even with the heaviness inside him, it was more manageable now. He was not breaking down every day anymore. He was even sleeping soundly at night, not waking up looking for comfort. He knew who he owed for this. Everyone who stood by him and let him know he was not alone. When he woke up and saw his mother with his brother looking so upset, the burden shifted. Then Petra came in, and the weight changed again. It was light, but it was still there, like a weightlifter, learning to bear it over time. He finally entered room 103, joined by his aunt and brother. Rachel, Pam, and Belly had gone in 2 days earlier with his permission to carefully pack up Amaya's clothes and things. They had even taken down the little pictures she made with her mini printer and removed them from the desk, which were still scattered around the room. They had packed everything into a small envelope. Her scent lingered there, a mix of fruity and spicy from her bath products, along with the warm smells of her lotions. He remembered watching her during her daily routine, a soft smile on her face when she knew he was watching her. She would glide her hands over her skin, applying gel to her belly and lotion to her legs, always capturing his interest. Afterward, he told Deborah, Dawn, and Pam that he was leaving the bed and breakfast. He felt uneasy since he and his family were using 3 rooms, and he couldn't stay in room 103 any longer. He was not going to take a different room either. He had been planning to move out, he explained. "That was different, John," Don Thompson said. "You were leaving to start fresh with someone important. Now you're just leaving to escape, from people who care about you when you need them." "I need to move on," AJ replied after a moment. "I can't stay in one room forever." "Are you going to get on a train again and just go wherever?" Deborah asked directly. AJ smiled a bit, but without any humor. "No, I'm not." "Are you staying here? In Camberley?" Pam asked. "He just teamed up with Bill," Don said with a spark in his eyes. "And John isn't someone who runs from a commitment like that, so he is staying in Camberley for sure." AJ looked at the older man, trying not to smile. "You're about as subtle as a bat hitting you." Don shrugged, unapologetic. "Subtlety was never my thing." "So you're staying in Camberley?" Pam asked again. He had thought about leaving, trying to escape the memories tied to many spots in town. But did he truly want to forget her? Did he want to forget the times she showed him her favorite places? The special moments they shared in the park? Did he really want to walk past the Bronin Stedman Hotel and not think of her? "Yes, I'm staying in Camberley," AJ said, taking a moment. "I have friends here." "Family," Deborah corrected firmly. "You have family here, Anderson John Smith." He felt warmth spread through him at that, lifting some of the burden. "Thank you. That means a lot." "So where do you plan to go?" Pam asked. I found some places online, he said. On Hawley and Gregson. He paused, remembering their dreams for the future. Those are all near Kellerson, Don noted. They're nice areas, Deborah said as Don winced at his own words. Nice neighborhoods. Close to everything you need. Plus, we can be here for you whenever. Don't change your plans for any reason, John. But don't rush away, Pam added. Give yourself time. Please. Heal a bit first. There's no hurry. The rooms aren't an issue, Don insisted. You know that. You're why we have rooms to rent. AJ nodded, feeling the warmth again. Okay. They all seemed to breathe easier. Thank you, he added. Can I ask you something? Don said to break the silence. Why are you Anderson John while your brother is just James? Ellison James, AJ grinned. He hates being called EJ. In middle school, he got stung by a bee and it became BJ, and you know. Middle school boys can be difficult, Pam said, laughing. 2 days later, AJ found himself back at the airport. He followed his brother as they returned the rental and got into a car with Petra. He expected a tough drive, with every moment reminding him of conversations shared with Amia. He remembered quiet times when she smiled at him, moments that now felt heavy with longing. He knew it would be hard, but he welcomed the memories along with the sadness, choosing to appreciate the last images of Amia he could hold on to. Still, it was a nice drive, filled with his brothers and aunt's playful banter, which brought him comfort despite the sadness. James had already checked in, and they stood in front of the security check, waiting for Petra to return from the restroom. Fortunately, James was leaving from a different terminal. Say goodbye to Talana for me when you see her, James said. AJ gave him a steady look. Why don't you say it yourself? Don't want to give her the wrong idea. Which is, James smiled. For one, I'm not ready to settle down yet, and I don't think she wants that kind of life either. Second, I'm 34 and she's 22. Third, she'd likely compare me to you. AJ laughed. James was taller and slimmer, and he knew more than one girl had lost interest in his brother after meeting him. James shook a finger. More like her and me, and you and Amia. Too much pressure. And fourth, James paused for effect. I saw Ben Thompson looking at her, and I noticed her looking at him. I'd just be a distraction. That's, AJ acknowledged. That's interesting. He looked at his brother. And fifth, there's someone you're interested in. James grinned. You won't get far beyond Mom or Aunt Petty, but yeah, she fits most of what I want. What do you mean? AJ raised an eyebrow. Well, yeah. James shrugged. She understands my need to be active, which means she's usually busy, and we're not exclusive. Really? AJ asked. No. James shook his head. I like her a lot, but it's not really serious. Stable, AJ suggested. That's better, James agreed. He turned his head, a smile crossing his face. There's Auntie Petty. She was walking towards them, wearing bright clothes and looking cheerful. When Gary had picked them up from the airport, their mother had told them they could call her by her name, but their uncle quickly said that they couldn't. So Auntie stayed with her name, even after he was gone. As James turned back to AJ, his face softened as he placed a hand on AJ's shoulder. You know I care about you, right? Yeah, AJ replied, feeling a shift in the moment. Right back at you, bro. I can't imagine what you've been through these last few months. With everything happening. James paused, his expression turning serious. I'm really sorry, AJ. AJ swallowed hard. Thanks, James. Thank me, Mom, and everyone else by not shutting yourself off. Be brave enough to find love again. AJ looked at his brother. Mom? James smiled sadly. She's not really a good example of that, is she? No, she's not, AJ agreed. What about you? I'm open to it, James said, looking right at AJ. But I've got feelings for someone else right now. Whoever she is, she'd need to understand that. I can't see myself changing that anytime soon. It's hard to look for something steady. He tilted his head. Do you promise, little bro? AJ looked away. It hurts. Yeah, I know, James said. But from what I've seen, and I know others feel it too, that girl truly cared for you. She wouldn't want you to stop looking for something special again. Tears welled up in AJ's eyes. James held his gaze. Take all the time you need. But if it happens, don't be afraid. He finally nodded. I won't be afraid. Good boys, Petra said, coming over with 2 little pastry boxes and a big smile, unaware of the curious looks she was getting. I came out of the restroom and found a bakery with Silavina cake. This is a good one. She handed the sealed box to James. I got one for you. I hope they let me bring it, James said. They will, Petra insisted. It's the national cake of Latvia. James laughed and hugged her, then asked her to give hugs to his 3 cousins. He also clasped hands with his brother and hugged him too. Get a passport and come see us both, he said. I've got plenty of miles. Then James left. When he drove back to Millie and Milton's, he found 4 people waiting for him. The weight of the moment came back as he parked next to a small white car. Petra had the idea to go back for more Silavina cake for Deborah and the Thompsons, sharing stories about her grandmother and making cakes in Latvia. She rarely talked about her past, so he listened, interested. Her mother and sister had moved to Germany, and visits had become rare. When he got out of the car, Belly looked upset, walking towards him from inside the B&B. You're leaving? She asked. He understood then. I'm not leaving Camberley, he said. That's not what You're leaving us, here. Why? Why can't you stay? You don't need to go anywhere. He frowned. I had plans to move anyway. That was different, Belly snapped. You were going with... She paused and took a deep breath, looking away. When she looked at him again, she seemed pained. Why do you want to be alone? It's not that, he said carefully. I just can't stay in one place forever, Belly. And I'm not leaving just yet. I need to find a place first, he said, trying to reassure her, confused by her reaction. I'll try to stay close. She was silent for a moment, studying him. Then she sighed. You'd better, she finally said. Stay close, I mean. Okay, he replied. He noticed her eyes drift to someone behind him, and he turned to see Petra watching them with a curious look. Then she smiled and lifted the box in her hands. I got cake, she announced happily. And even better, it is Silavina, the Latvian national cake. She looked at Belly. We'll go inside and you can have a slice and take some to your lovely mother and cute father. Oh, okay, Belly said, looking a bit flustered. Come on then, Petra urged. AJ almost laughed as Belly quickly followed her. He had seen his aunt take charge many times before. The second person was Ben Thompson, rounding the corner just as AJ approached the door after Belly and Petra. Hey, John, Ben said, his beard now a dark shadow on his jaw. Or would you prefer AJ? Whichever you want is fine, AJ shrugged. Okay, Ben replied, shifting his feet. I'm sorry I missed saying goodbye to James. He's really impressive. What he does is amazing. Yeah, AJ agreed. He's practically a superhero. But don't tell him I said that. Ben chuckled. It was cold, so AJ got straight to the point. What's this about? Talana, Ben said after a moment. I want to know if James is. They're all ready? I know she really respects him. AJ smiled. James thinks you and Talana look good together. He believes you should go for it. She's truly lovely, inside and out. Oh, Ben said, looking a bit shy. That's good. Nice of him. AJ smiled wider. Do you have her number? Yeah, she gave it to me. AJ grinned, remembering a beautiful young woman encouraging him not to wait. He reached for the door. Use it. Call her. The last 2 people waiting for him were just inside, talking to Don Thompson, who was leaning on his walker. Bill offered him a smile. Randall nodded. There he is, Don said. John, Randall said, tilting his head slightly as a way to greet him. Hey. Bill stepped forward and shook hands. How are you doing? AJ shrugged as he shook Bill's hand. Good enough. Bill nodded thoughtfully. Did we just meet Petra? With the cake? She's your aunt? Don snorted. I just told you all that, Bill. She's very different, Bill said slowly, ignoring Don's remark while AJ raised an amused eyebrow. Randall cleared his throat. We're here for something else, Bill. Oh, Bill said, his focus shifting back. Yes. AJ smirked. Petra had a knack for making people flustered. It's about the Cassaman building, Bill said. We got it. AJ nodded. The Cassaman building was Sutton's old city offices, with its Gothic style and decades of added wiring. He felt heavy inside, remembering how excited Amia had been when he mentioned it, just before they stopped at a motel on the way back from Sutton. It hurt. It felt like he was walking around with a deep sadness that nobody else could see. The mayor is supportive, Bill said. We're looking at a full rewiring and network upgrade. He shared a glance with Don and Randall. But we know it's a big decision. You don't have to decide right away, if you need more time. He remembered her, asking if he was sure about this new path his handshake with Bill represented. When do they need an answer? AJ asked. By the end of the week, Bill replied carefully. But John, nobody expects you to. I'll do it, AJ interrupted, feeling something change inside him. He met Bill's concerned gaze. I'm in. He saw their relief mixed with concern. Randall gave his standard approval grunt. Are you sure? Bill asked gently. We can wait. Just then, the door to the kitchen swung open, and Petra stepped out with 4 plates of cake in her hands. Latvian cake for everyone, she called out. She handed a plate to each man, and AJ quickly understood why Bill had looked confused when he saw Petra using her charm. Petra handed Bill his plate last, and held on to the tiny fork that came with it. It's called silavina, she said, her voice inviting as she cut a piece from Bill's slice. She smiled as she lifted the fork to his lips. Try it. It's delicious. Bill, looking surprised, opened his mouth and Petra fed him, smiling all the while. Do you like it? She asked, making her intentions clear. Is it good? Yes, Bill replied, clearly impressed. Very much. Petra smiled wider. Good. Then she stepped back, handing him the fork. Take care of my boy, Mr. Bill Garrison, she said with a playful accent. She winked at AJ as she walked away, glancing back before disappearing through the kitchen door. All the men stared at each other, speechless. Even Randall had lost his usual calm demeanor. For the first time, AJ noticed the type of man his aunt seemed to like. He realized how similar Bill was to Gary, both strong men who worked with their hands. It seems she likes you, Don said, finally breaking the silence and directing it at a very flustered Bill Garrison. It was hard to sleep in room 103 again. Memories filled the space, lingering on the freshly cleaned sheets. He knew it was mostly in his mind, but it mattered. She was everywhere. Petra, sleeping in 102, had asked if he was sure that he was ready. He had lied and said yes. Then Belly called asking the same thing, and he had lied to her too. He woke up twice, both times longing for her familiar presence, feeling her absence weigh heavy on him. The time she had been there to comfort him felt so far away, and the emptiness was overwhelming. Yet he held it together, not breaking down as he had before. He just kept going, forcing himself back to sleep. He woke to find that Bill had sent photos and copies of the Cassaman building's old blueprints and engineering plans, along with those of the 2 annexes that had been added over the years. They all needed rewiring and networking. A few interior pictures were included. Again, he felt his thoughts shifting, pushing through the heaviness of waking up without her smile. The original Cassaman building was 5 stories of Gothic-style architecture, with 2 4-story annexes added in different decades. Given the time it was built, the original creators hadn't thought about modern technology and the requirements for it. As a result, there was a complex mess of wires and panels, as installers prioritized quick fixes over careful planning. The interior was a visible challenge, with wiring from 3 different eras layered on top of each other. His phone chimed with a message from Bill. Site visit at 11. Mike is coming too. Can you make it? He was typing yes, when another message arrived that made him smile. Say hi to Petra for me. During her call, Belly had filled him in on Petra's honest opinion of Bill when Don introduced them. Nice, big, strong, cute. He turned so red, Belly laughed. After Bill and Randall left, his aunt promptly asked about Bill Garrison's relationship status, noting that he wasn't wearing a ring. AJ only knew that he was divorced. Pam shared the rest of the story. He had confronted his wife as she left a hotel with another man and told her to leave their home. Anna had decided to take her things and leave to find herself and her happiness with her new partner right in front of their 3 kids. After that, Bill sold their house and moved to a different part of the county. But Anna showed up at his new place a few months later during their twin daughter's birthday party. She asked him to think again about the divorce, which was almost finalized. All 3 kids were clear about their feelings. They did not want their parents to be together anymore. Bill agreed and kindly showed their unhappy mother out, then closed the door. Neither Pam nor Deborah knew he was seeing someone new, at least not seriously. Petra felt sad about the betrayal and Bill's pain, but was relieved that she wouldn't have to chase after him. From what she could tell, winning Bill over wouldn't take much effort on her part. Almost right on cue, there was a knock on his door, followed by his aunt's cheerful voice. He opened the door to find her holding a tray of snacks from Julia. To his surprise, Petra immediately reacted to Bill's greeting. "I'm coming with you." "Auntie Petra, this is work," he reminded her. "And?" She crossed her arms. "I want to see how you work. I promise I won't disturb anything." "But ask Bill if I can come." "Isn't he your boss?" It was more accurate to say Mike was his boss since they were heading to a construction site, but he understood that such details wouldn't really matter. He texted Bill and got a reply that matched what he and Petra expected. After what had occurred with Greta, he was sure Mike wouldn't mind. He waved a cheerful Petra goodbye and headed to the shower, trying not to think about how she would have enjoyed a more calm setting with him. "I care about you," she would softly say during their friendly moments. But the weight of his thoughts came back. He leaned against the wall, trying to breathe, wanting to escape this shower, this room, this place, to find somewhere without the memories that troubled him. "I won't run," he had promised. So he didn't. He stayed under the water until the moment passed. Then he finished his shower and got dressed. Petra was ready and waiting for him in the lobby, chatting with another guest, dressed in a black sweater and jeans with a light touch of makeup on her face. AJ paused to look her over. "You look great, Auntie Petra." "Thank you, sweet boy," she replied, smiling at him. "Are we ready to go?" He nodded. Yes. He had been anxious about the drive, thinking back to the last time they had gone in the opposite direction after the handover party, when he had held her hand while driving since she felt nervous. But this drive to Sutton was nice, with Petra filling the car with chatter, sharing stories about a road trip Gary had taken her on when she was pregnant with Katerina. He had shown her kindness and taken her to see new places, making her feel loved and important. "It was a wonderful time," she said, her eyes sparkling. This kind side of his strict uncle was one he had rarely seen, and justly so, as he had kept it for his wife. Petra looked bright as she placed her hand on his. "Your uncle was my everything. He made me feel whole after everything I went through. He never judged me. He simply loved me. I was shy because of my past, but he made me strong." "I miss him every single day," she said, her eyes starting to tear up. She paused and looked into his eyes. "This situation with Bill, I feel a connection because he reminds me of your uncle. You understand that, right?" AJ nodded. "You know I won't try to fill the space he left?" Petra asked. He understood, and it made him appreciate her even more. "I do." He gently patted her hand. "You don't need to explain anything to me, Auntie Petra. I want you to be happy. I know Uncle Gary would want that for you, too." "Thank you, my sweet boy," Petra said, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Thank you, AJ." The traffic was lighter than he thought, so they arrived in Sutton with enough time for him to ask Petra if she wanted to see the hotel he had worked on. She nodded eagerly, and he changed his route, heading to the Apex Regal on Howard Sutton Crescent. The building was decorated with bunting and ribbons. Strings of lights sparkled in the morning sun, while garlands adorned the windows. Banners hung between the columns flanking the entrance where a stage was being set up for the launch. One banner had the familiar Apex Regal crown logo, while another announced the grand opening date, which was just a week away. "It looks beautiful," Petra exclaimed. AJ agreed, though the weight of his thoughts still lingered. He remembered her walking into the event wearing her red sweater dress and boots, searching for him, her smile lighting up when their eyes met, her approach, not caring about anyone else in the room. "You did this?" Petra asked, impressed, breaking him out of his memories. "I figured out the networking and power delivery for it," he said. But this was about many people working hard together to make it all happen. Tears filled her eyes again. "Gary would be so proud of you, AJ." He thought about Gary sitting next to his mother during his graduation, trying to keep his tears in check, and swallowed hard as he drove on to their destination. Bill, Randall, and another man in overalls were waiting outside as AJ and Petra arrived just after 11 o'clock. AJ shook hands with the men, while Petra added warm greetings with touches on their cheeks. Was Bill wearing a new scent? The man in overalls was Arnie, the head of janitorial services. "I know every part of this building," he said. "I love it. But I know it's not perfect." "Look, there's Mike," Randall said, frowning. "With Greta?" Indeed, Mike Lyman was with Greta Keene, who was holding on to his arm. Their relationship was now known to everyone. When Greta saw AJ, she hurried over to give him a friendly hug. She looked at Petra with curiosity until AJ introduced her as his aunt. Bill added that she was there because he had invited her. Petra smiled brightly, and AJ felt warmth from her smile, which also made Greta smile and share a knowing glance with him. "This building has historical significance," Mike said when Randall quietly asked about Greta's presence. That was enough for Randall to stay quiet. Instead, he moved closer to AJ as Arnie led them inside and whispered, "This is an unusual place to bring someone." AJ held back a laugh. The empty halls of the Castleman building echoed with their footsteps as they walked through. AJ had seen pictures, but the real thing was much more chaotic. Wires crossed over walls and ceilings, disappearing into makeshift holes only to reappear further away. Different colors and sizes of wire told a story. The oldest, covered in worn fabric, was from when electric lights were first put in. Thicker wires from the 70s ran alongside, carrying the building's first computer connections. The newest blue Cat 5 cables were simply tied wherever there was space. "How are we supposed to figure out what goes where?" Bill mumbled, shining his flashlight on a junction box where at least 30 cables tangled together. "We won't," Randall replied shortly. "Yep," Mike agreed. "We'll have to remove everything and start over, running new lines through the old paths we can find." Randall nodded in agreement. "The Gothic style should help," Greta said, pulling out a camera. "There are many tall spaces behind these decorative columns." Mike smiled proudly at her. Arnie added, "The builders really like their decorations. It makes cleaning a bit tricky." "This is true," Petra said, remembering her time in cleaning services before she returned to ballet teaching. Greta began taking photos. "The society will want detailed plans showing how you'll keep the architectural features," she said in a helpful tone. The men all winced. Petra stayed close to Bill, and they chatted quietly as they climbed the grand staircase to the upper floors, where things were even messier. A tangle of cables spilled from a hole in a decorative plaster ceiling, causing Greta to exclaim while the others chuckled. AJ started planning possibilities in his mind, comparing what he saw with the blueprints. "The annexes are worse," Arnie warned, leading them through heavy wooden doors into the first addition. "At least the main building has those columns to work with. Here they just made holes wherever they needed to." He was right. The 1970s edition showed very little care for looks or future needs. Cables were mounted all over, fixed directly to walls with rusty brackets. Network cables hung across ceiling tiles, sagging under their own weight. "They tried to hide things at first," Mike noted, pointing to bits of plastic cable covers that had long since fallen off. "But each time they added more, they just took the easiest route." Bill shook his head. "Do we even need to map it all out?" "No," AJ replied after thinking for a moment. "Nothing here is worth saving. We'll take it all out and start fresh with a proper plan." Randall pointed to a row of junction boxes. "See how they connected the power over there? Some computers would crash whenever someone used the microwave in the break room," Arnie said. Randall laughed. "The Historical Society won't mind us removing all this?" Bill asked Greta. She was still taking photos. "This isn't historical, it's dangerous." Randall laughed again, appreciating her words. "Is there a server room?" AJ asked Arnie. They discovered it was an old staff bathroom in the basement of the second annex. 2 large air conditioners hummed to cool a tangle of equipment. Cables spilled out like colorful spaghetti. "This all needs to go," AJ said, already envisioning a new network operations center with better cooling and power management. "We'll need a raised floor system and proper HVAC for the overhead wiring." "Will you still use this bathroom?" Arnie asked. "Yes," AJ replied, thinking it through. Surprisingly, the room next to it was still a ladies' restroom. "We'll take both. We need more space, and the tile is great for heat control. Plus, we can use the plumbing for cooling." Arnie grunted. "The girls on my team won't be too pleased about losing the toilet." Then he smiled playfully, and the group laughed together. "That's just how it is," he said, lightening the mood. AJ felt the responsibility weighing on him as he continued. "We'll need to run new power lines directly from the main entrance and set up backups." "And security," Randall added. "We'll need proper access controls," AJ agreed. The bathrooms were conveniently located at the end of a hallway that could be easily secured. "So I'm guessing we're putting the backup ENOC in the main building?" Mike said. "To keep things physically separate, right?" AJ nodded. "The old records room might work," Greta suggested. "It has beautiful built-in cabinets we're trying to preserve. If you could work around those—" "No," AJ said. "Old wood and electrical equipment do not mix well." "There's an old storage area for broken furniture," Arnie suggested. "It's all made of brick and concrete." "Thanks," Mike replied. "Speaking of keeping things intact," Bill added, "what about these old telephone wires? Some look like they've been here since the building was made." Randall looked up at the old covered cables. "Those will be tricky to take out." "Actually," Greta said with an apologetic look, "the society would want to keep those. Early telephone setups are part of the building's history." Randall shrugged. "We could add some flexible materials and hide the new wires under them." "That sounds good," AJ agreed, understanding Randall's idea. "Good thinking," Mike said, catching on too. "Let's keep everyone happy." He checked his watch. "Let's head to the top floor." He reached out to hold Greta's hand, and AJ noticed her blush at the kind gesture. Randall shared a small smile with AJ as they both recognized the moment. The cell repeater installation on the top floor was lacking. The contractor had damaged the old slate roof while putting up the antenna, hurting both the historical wooden beams and the equipment. Water damage around the connections made AJ shrug when Arnie mentioned complaints about the signal strength above the 3rd floor. "We can use the old chimney for the new antenna," AJ suggested. "Run the cables through there and seal the top well." Bill turned to Greta. "Would that be okay for the society?" AJ noted that Mike bringing his girlfriend along was very helpful. Keeping the society satisfied was important for their future work. "Yes," Greta replied to Bill while taking pictures. "As long as the antenna isn't visible from the street, it's fine." "We'll need to redo the grounding system," Randall noted, and everyone nodded in agreement. "Well," Mike said to Bill, "this was fun." "Are we done?" "Yes, I think so," Bill replied. "We can discuss timelines later." They walked back through the building with Bill and Petra lagging behind, enjoying a quiet conversation filled with her light laughter. Greta linked her arm with Mike's, while Randall walked ahead, jotting down notes and chatting with Arnie. It turned out they had mutual friends from their army days. It was nearly 1 o'clock when they left the building. Bill offered to treat everyone to lunch, including Arnie. Mike and Greta politely declined, wanting to be alone. After a slight nudge, Randall and Arnie also turned down the offer. AJ saw his aunt's curious expression and was about to say he was going with Randall to look over blueprints when his phone rang. Seeing the name on the screen, he knew he didn't need to make an excuse. He had to leave right away. "I just wanted to remind you," Marina Jaconde started. "Great," he thought. "I'll be there," he said. "Thanks for the reminder." Ending the call, he pulled his aunt aside. "Aunt Petty, I have to go right now." "Why?" she asked, showing some worry. "What's going on?" He explained his appointment for 2:15 p.m. today and mentioned the 2 boys he needed to meet at a sandwich shop in Camberley. "Okay," Petra replied, likely thinking of Patrick, who had played the flute for her ballet students. "I'll say goodbye to Bill and we can go." "No," AJ said. "Stay here." He then walked over to Bill. "Are you really okay with this?" Bill asked. "I know she was your uncle's wife. He's been gone for 2 years. I can't control who she wants to spend time with, Bill," AJ said, glancing at her before looking Bill in the eyes. "I just need you to know that I care for her deeply." Bill kept looking at him. "You won't hurt her." "No, never," Bill replied. "She's really special." "I have to go back to Camberley now," AJ insisted. "I don't think she needs to come with me." Bill smiled. "I'll take her back." AJ smiled back, waved to his aunt, and then quickly walked to the parking lot, leaving her behind with no regrets. The programming language was not hard to understand, especially with his background. The twins' use of clear organization made it easier to follow their work. Their habit of categorizing and commenting helped make their code more readable. The situation was different, but it reminded him of his Uncle Gary's careful labeling. The only challenge was the amount of code they created over months, often neglecting basic needs like food and rest. This was according to Marina and Folek Abrams, their tired but dedicated-looking mother. The clock in his car read 14:13 when he reached the shop and parked, but it took him until 14:17 to get out of the car. A strong memory hit him, making it hard to breathe. It was the day she came into his life, seeing her through the window as she prepared to pick him up. For a full minute, he cried and then steeled himself, worried about becoming overwhelmed when he entered the store and saw where she was sitting with her team. Realizing any extra time would stress the 2 boys he was meeting, he wiped his eyes, stood tall, and walked into the shop. Cindy rushed out from behind the counter to greet him. "Talana told me. I'm really sorry." He hugged her back, feeling the memories rush in as he looked at the benches. He remembered how she used to smile when their eyes met. He told himself to stay calm and not to let more tears fall. Then Cindy pulled away and gently touched his cheek, tears in her eyes. "I'm here for you if you need me, okay? Just call me anytime." He thanked her again and walked to the benches at the other end. Marina stood near one bench, looking unhappy, while another woman sat next to the boys, appearing anxious. "I'm sorry for being late, everyone," he said as he sat down across from them, choosing to only nod at the 2 women. "You are late," Ethan said, his eyes narrowed but not looking at him directly. He wore a blue jacket with an E on the sleeve. 4 minutes and 22 seconds, Nathan added, dressed in orange with an N. "I really am sorry. My car had some trouble," AJ explained. The boys relaxed a bit. "What was wrong with your car?" Nathan asked as Marina joined him at the bench. It wouldn't start properly." "What caused it?" Ethan asked next. "The battery needed charging." "Why was that?" Ethan pressed again. "I'm still figuring it out." "Did you leave the lights on by mistake?" Nathan wondered. "Ethan, Nathan." The woman beside them had a soft accent but spoke assertively. "Let Mr. John Smith help you with your project first, then you can help him with his car." Without delay, they began to pull out their laptops from their bags. "Hello, Mr. Smith," the woman said, her skin dark and pretty behind her glasses, wearing scrubs. "I'm Folek Abrams, their mother." He recognized her name from her name tag and could see the resemblance to her son's. "I apologize for being late again," AJ said. Folek smiled kindly. "It's all right. This isn't how I imagine you would want to spend a Saturday afternoon." "Actually," he paused, feeling the weight of the moment, "I spent many Saturdays here." He took a moment to collect himself as sadness washed over him. "Yes," Marina said to Folek. "That's how I found him. Hannah's sister told her that a guy was helping students with coding here on Saturdays." "I won't run away," he reminded himself, recalling Hannah's support when she had set up an account for him to collect lesson fees. Another memory came to mind, her encouraging words about valuing his time. "Is something bothering you?" Folek asked, a look of concern on her face. He realized he hadn't hidden his feelings as well as he thought. "I just lost someone." "Oh," Folek said gently. "I'm so sorry to hear that." "Was that why she was hugging you?" Marina asked, looking embarrassed right away. "I didn't mean to pry." "It's fine." He noticed their curious looks and decided to share. "It was my fiancée. I met her here. She had an accident and passed away. Oh! Marina's eyes widened, her hand covering her mouth in shock. Was it in the last month? Yes. Folake looked shocked. You don't have to discuss this now if you don't want to. We can schedule another time. No, AJ said, watching Ethan and Nathan carefully set up their laptops. This helps me. She would want me to help them. Are you sure? Folake asked, still concerned. Yes, he affirmed, looking her in the eyes. The boys were ready, giving him a chance to look away. Show me what you've worked on, AJ said, turning his focus to the twins. They both turned their screens toward him in unison, as if they had rehearsed it. Here, Ethan said, pointing at his screen without looking up. We've made the branches more accurate. The steps still get tangled, Nathan added, his fingers moving quickly on the keyboard. The conditions need to be clearer. AJ examined the complex lines of code. The twins had created an impressively detailed system of conditional statements. A simpler solution made sense if the conditions were precise enough. Everything should work smoothly. It should work, which was why they had gotten stuck in this complicated approach. He knew they would eventually figure it out, but it could take a lot of time and be very frustrating for them. Let me show you something, AJ said, opening his own laptop. He had spent some time studying their code. He pushed his own worries aside. For his own understanding, he had sketched out what he saw in their approach. He showed it to them to help illustrate. Right now, you're trying to cover every possible scenario, he explained. That's why things keep getting more complicated. You can't plan for every situation. Instead of trying to control everything, AJ suggested, what if we let the system handle when it should act separately? Nathan paused, considering. The steps will still need supervision. Not supervision management, AJ clarified. There's a difference. He noticed Folake lean in, interested, while Marina watched her nephews closely. Look, AJ said, typing. Each instance should work on its own. You've done that well. But right now, you're trying to write rules for every way elements might influence each other. He sketched another diagram. Instead, we could allow the system to evaluate and decide what works best. When it gets to a certain level of difficulty, it automatically splits to work separately. But we need clearer rules, Ethan said, trying to adjust to the new direction. The rules will be clear, AJ replied. We're just letting the system decide how and when to apply them. He noticed Folake touch Ethan's shoulder, looking at Nathan, who had gone quiet, thinking things over. Ethan relaxed, glancing at Nathan without raising his head. Nathan's hand movements had slowed. Think of it like traffic, AJ suggested. When there aren't many cars, they can all use the same road. But when it gets busy, some cars get sent to different routes. Both boys paused, considering what he said. Ethan stopped tapping his finger. The system decides? Nathan asked, his hands still moving slowly, deep in thought. During runtime or at compile time? Ethan wanted to know. Mostly compile, AJ said, reflecting, using probabilistic modeling, but we'll also create a runtime version to catch anything the compiler misses. Ethan surprisingly nodded first. Nathan followed shortly after. AJ felt relieved. Let me show you what we can do. AJ started to type, but then stopped. Do you two know Zebra? Yes, the twins answered at the same time. Great, AJ said. I'm still learning AX, so I'll show you how the branching code looks in Zebra. Is that okay? They both nodded. AJ watched as Folake and Marina smiled while the boys leaned forward, watching his screen closely. Later, as they prepared to leave, Folake turned to him and said, Mr. Smith, this means a lot. Most people don't try to understand how they think. The way they think and organize their code is really impressive, AJ replied honestly. What they are doing is brilliant. They see things in a unique way. He noticed Folake and Marina's eyes shining as they all watched the twins carefully pack up their computers and accessories. They still had weeks of work to complete and had set up 2 meetings over the next month. AJ thought of Patrick, playing his flute while Aunt Petra's students danced, lost in their own world of music. Then he saw her smile proudly at him when he spoke to his class in the very shop she had arranged, and for a moment he felt lighter. What about your car? Ethan asked. What caused it to break down? That was unexpected. Petra Bradmore felt young again, which made her feel guilty, even though her partner Gary had told her he didn't want her to be alone. "Don't be like Rachel," he had said firmly. It was tough for him to speak, but he meant what he said. He had told their daughter Katerina the same thing and asked her to help her younger siblings understand. Petra had raised her voice, insisting he would get better and return home with her. He had just opened his arms and she had fallen into them, crying as he held her in his hospital bed. He passed away just 11 days later. Her love for him had grown slowly, without the excitement she often saw in stories and movies. That was how it had been with Andres, the man who had brought her to be a dancer and model. He had been tall and slim, a gymnast before an injury stopped his career. The moment their eyes met, she felt a surge of emotion. She soon believed everything he said, thrilled that such a worldly and charming man had fallen for her. She quickly broke up with a young man who had proposed. She hadn't given him an answer yet and viewed her meeting with Andres as fate, stopping her from making a mistake. Richards had been kind and decent, wanting to be a police officer. But Andres was exciting. Andres had spent a week taking her out, and then persuaded her to move abroad for a life full of glamour and fame, promising to help her family. She wanted to believe him. She was glad to hear that Richards had quickly found someone new after she left Latvia. He deserved better. She liked Gary Bradmore. Had she felt the same spark with him as she had with Andres, she would have chosen differently. His honesty and the kindness she found beneath his rough exterior made her rethink her past mistakes. Those good qualities were worth waiting for, not just going after immediate attraction. She realized she loved him after a few weeks when she was worried one night because he hadn't called for 2 days. The next day, she sought him out and shared her feelings with him. And her past. After she found out she was pregnant, staring at the blue lines on the test, she suddenly felt excitement when her husband came home. This made her feel guilty about her feelings for Bill Garrison, especially since it had taken her a long time to feel anything for Gary Bradmore. Even though she knew the excitement in her stomach came from how much Bill reminded her of her late husband, her lips felt stiff when he leaned in to greet her. She felt guilty again when she leaned in too, her eyes shining with warmth. The outing had turned out to be wonderful, despite starting awkwardly with her other companions leaving her alone with Bill. With everyone else busy, she had no choice but to accept Bill's invitation for lunch. AJ had already driven away. Bill took her to a Vietnamese restaurant on a side street in Sutton, and he was clearly a regular there. The owner, Tony, was cheerful and seemed glad to see Bill with someone. "He usually comes in with his kids," Tony whispered to her, "or just paperwork." Petra found herself relaxing as Bill shared stories about his kids, discovering he had 3 of them. "My daughters are finishing university soon," he said proudly. "They're twins." "I have twins too," she replied, happy to find some common ground. "Mihail and Alana are 17. My daughters are 21, Jenna and Emma," he said with a smile. "And my son Jack just turned 18. After lunch, he showed her around Sutton, including a museum and an old Victorian house. His passion for architecture was infectious as he pointed out details of the restoration. "Did you help with this?" she asked. "AJ only showed me your hotel." "No, but I wish I had," he smiled. "Want to see something I built?" He drove her to a hilltop estate that overlooked the town. The houses were beautiful and sturdy, and she was intrigued by how they had built around the landscape while preserving old trees. "You built this?" she asked, impressed. "From the ground up," he said, and the pride in his voice reminded her of Gary's excitement about his work, making her look away for a moment. But when Bill took her hand as they walked the grounds, she didn't pull away. His hand was warm in hers as they admired the view of Sutton. The late afternoon sun bathed the town in a golden light. Things got difficult a few years later, and I guess my ex-wife felt lonely. She squeezed his hand. "You don't have to share if you don't want to." "It's okay," Bill said. "I'm over it. It went on for more than 6 months, and when I found out she was defiant, proud of her new love, someone I had even invited to dinner for work." He paused. "I just couldn't fight for her anymore." "I'm really sorry," Petra said, wishing to comfort him, feeling a thrill that he was opening up to her. even if she knew the story well. But he didn't. Bill smiled again. Don't be. I ended up better off in a way. How's that? She asked. He shrugged. She came back almost a year later, on our daughter's birthday, wanting to reconcile at my new house. He shook his head. It turned out that her new partner wasn't as great as she thought. She was surprised when I sold our old home and moved on. I think she thought we'd just wait for her. Petra remembered telling Rehards her answer to his proposal, that she had found someone else. She had hurt herself more than him in the process. Before Gary, she told herself it was karma, even if that was illogical. Gary had firmly disagreed when she mentioned it. He said one thing didn't relate to the other. Nobody deserved what she went through, and many innocent people faced worse. At least, she told herself, thinking of AJ, she hadn't said yes to Rehards only to leave with someone else. It must have been painful, she said to Bill, her old guilt resurfacing. Yes, he replied. It was tough. I had to leave our home because she'd done most of the decorating, and it reminded me too much of her. We all wanted to forget, really. Petra listened as he explained how he ensured their kids still saw their mother, even when they were upset with her. Before everything happened, she was a good mom. Since she came back, she's tried to improve things and be a mom again. Does she still reach out? He added. Every few months, she asks if we can try again. He shook his head. The kids don't like it, especially the girls. She hadn't known his ex-wife was still trying to reconcile after 5 years. Do they still see her? Petra asked. Bill smiled sadly. It took time after she returned, but I made sure they did. No matter how I feel about her, she's still their mother. Their relationship is okay now. Not perfect, but it's okay, she said. That was a good thing. It was her turn to talk, so Petra shared about Gary, how they met on a balcony, and how he first approached her asking for a cigarette. It could have felt strange to talk about loving another man while on a date, but she thought that at their age, it felt even stranger to have no stories to share. Bill Garrison listened as she described her husband and the good life they had together until he passed away. I'm not comparing you, she reassured him, but you are so similar that I naturally liked you. He sounds like a wonderful man, Bill said. Tears came to her eyes. He truly was. I loved him dearly. Bill paused and looked at her. Well, I hope I compare well. If you didn't, Petra replied, squeezing his hand, then I wouldn't be here now. My AJ John leaving me for you says a lot. Bill smiled. I'm honored. The moment felt right, and when he leaned in, she leaned in too, but then froze. I'm sorry. It's okay, Bill said, still smiling. No need to apologize. I need to tell you something. What is it? Bill asked. Alcohol, she said quietly. Alcohol? I have a strong dislike for it, Petra replied. My worst moments in life, from Latvia to here, all involve men who drank too much. What happened? She looked away. I can't share everything yet. But my Gary, I agreed to see him again after our lunch because he didn't drink. Are you asking if I can stop drinking for you? She shook her head. I can't ask that of you. We've just met and I have no right. She met his eyes and added, I really like you, Bill, but I want to protect both of our hearts, and this issue of alcohol is very important to me. Bill was quiet for a moment. The truth is, I had to cut back on drinking, almost completely. When Anna left, I turned to it and took my anger out on my kids, which hurt my business too. That's when I knew we needed to move and start fresh. He took a deep breath. I can't promise I won't ever have a drink at a game or a barbecue, but if what I'm hoping for with you is real, I can give it up. Really? Petra asked, her voice filled with hope. Yes, Bill replied. Then Petra took his face in her hands and smiled at him. He looked pleasantly surprised when she released him. Wow, he said softly. I'm sure I can stop drinking for that. She giggled, feeling happy. I haven't felt a moment like that since Gary, Petra admitted after their exchange. I was worried I had forgotten how... Ah, Bill said, blinking. If this is your forgetting, then I think you'll surprise me when you remember everything. She laughed. Belly saw them coming out of the cafe and was so surprised that she almost dropped the pizza boxes she was carrying. Careful, Mr. Mazzioni said. She smiled at him gratefully before looking back at the couple across the street. The young woman was looking up at the man, smiling as he tucked her hair behind her ear. She guessed he must have sensed her watching because he suddenly turned and their eyes met. She smiled playfully. Just to tease him a bit more, she walked over to them. "So," Ben said, holding Talana's hand, who was snuggling up to him, "are you following us?" She tilted her head. "Is there a difference?" Talana giggled. "Hi, Belly." "Hey, Talana," Belly replied, smiling while ignoring her brother's look. "I hope he's behaving." "Yes," Talana said. "He's been good." Belly raised an eyebrow. "But not too good, I hope?" Talana blushed and giggled. "Maybe." "Belly," Ben warned. "What?" Belly said dramatically. "Can't you see I'm having a chat here?" She sniffed. "So rude." Talana laughed again. "I really can't stand you right now," Ben said to her. She wrinkled her nose and smiled brightly. "No, you can't." He held his expression for a moment before giving in. "No, I guess I can't." He smiled back at his sister, looking at the pizza boxes. "So you're finally going to indulge today? Where are you going to put all of that?" Talana playfully hit his arm. Belly rolled her eyes. "It's for a staff meeting and a goodbye party," she explained, lifting the pizza boxes slightly. "Dr. Chen is leaving us." "Is she one of your teachers?" Talana asked. "She," Belly corrected. "She teaches math. We're going to miss her. She's great with the kids." "You've told me about her," Ben noted. "Nothing bad, I hope?" Belly made a face. "Her mom had an accident and broke her hip, and her dad is already sick, so she's going to Taiwan to take care of them." "Oh," Talana said. "That's sad. And quite kind of her," Ben said sincerely. "Like someone I know." Belly felt herself blush. Her brother had his moments. "Do you have a replacement?" Talana asked. "Yes," Belly replied. "Mr. Tholberg will take over, and he's good, too. The problem is that she was running our coding club, and we don't have anyone for that." "Oh." Talana's eyes widened. "She was teaching programming?" "Yeah," Belly said. "We have about a dozen kids who love it. There's a hackathon competition in 3 weeks, but they need a teacher to supervise." "And none of the other teachers can do it?" Ben asked. "Mr. Larkin is trying, but he's not up to speed." Belly shrugged. "And he's finding it hard to catch up on the language." "What language is it?" Talana asked, frowning. Belly shrugged. "Not sure. Cheetah? No." "Zebra. Why not ask John?" Talana suggested. "He's really good with coding. And he knows this zebra. He was actually teaching some students at the Flavor Bomb. That great milkshake place." "Hey." Belly tried to picture John teaching in a sandwich shop. Talana nodded happily. "Yes, and he was really good. I was busy with something else, but even I understood him. Amaya actually made them pay." The mention of the name made everyone quiet. "Anyway," Talana said after a moment, a hint of sadness in her voice as she missed her friend, "you should ask him for help." "I don't know," Belly replied slowly. "He's been through a lot. And this could be good for him," Ben pointed out, giving her a meaningful look. She thought about Aaron and David, proud and happy, with the bed and breakfast shining brightly behind them. His pride in them was clear as he let them share their accomplishments with family. Suddenly, imagining him teaching felt easier. If her cousins could learn from him, he must be a good teacher. "Just ask him," Ben encouraged. "This could be just what he needs." Talana nodded in agreement. Ben could see it. Her mind was working fast. Her heart was racing too. From his smile, she knew her brother could see that. The height difference between Ben and Talana was amusing, but she spoke sincerely when she said, "You two look really nice together." Her brother smiled brightly, and Talana blushed. "The pizzas are getting cold," Mr. Mazzioni called out. Belly rushed to knock on the door after school, parking her car at the cottage and heading to the big Georgian building, relieved that his car was not there. The white hatchback was still parked, and she felt a familiar twinge of sadness seeing it. That mixed with a surge of relief that she still felt something, despite her brother's words. Fortunately, she heard a familiar voice telling her to wait a moment. Then Petra opened the door, and Belly's jaw dropped. She was fixing an earring, and the silver and blue studs matched her elegant navy gown. Belly reminded herself that Petra was in her 50s. Petra smiled warmly. "Yes, Belly." "Wow," Belly exclaimed. "You look so lovely." Petra smiled shyly before twirling. "How does the dress look?" "It's perfect." "It's for Beal," Petra confessed. "We're going on our 3rd date." She smiled playfully. "I want to impress him." "Congratulations! You look amazing, and I'm not even into that." Belly grinned. Petra's phone rang, and Belly chuckled as she picked it up, her smile growing as she answered. "Hello? BL?" Petra said playfully. "You're here already? You're so eager to see me?" She smiled wider at the response. "Well, I need a bit more time," she teased. "Good things come to those who wait." She laughed at the reply that followed. "I'll be out soon," she finally agreed. "And I can't wait to see you, too." She hung up and turned to Belly, her smile still bright. "I feel young again." "It's nice." Belly understood that feeling. She felt it around the man in 103. "What do you want to talk about?" Petra asked, putting her phone into a nice silver clutch. "Do you want tips to get AJ to notice you?" Belly felt herself blush. "It's obvious," Petra said kindly. "To a woman. His mother noticed it. So did I." "What about him?" she asked, her heart racing. "No, he doesn't think like that." Petra raised an eyebrow at her teasingly. Belly laughed, moving to help the taller woman with her coat. "But I kissed him," she admitted, surprising Petra. She shared how she came home to find he had bought new appliances for the bed and breakfast after already fixing up the place, unable to grasp how generous he was. Then she found him setting up the hotel management system. She remembered his playful laughter. "I just did it," she said about the kiss. Petra shook her head, smiling. "He still likes cartoons, but I don't think he knows. Men can be clueless." Belly giggled with Petra, feeling both relief and disappointment at that. But she knew she was keeping 2 excited people from their date, so she quickly mentioned asking John to help with the coding club. Was it too soon? Would more activity be good for him? "Yes," Petra replied instantly. "Ask. He enjoys helping. It will take his mind off his troubles." She smiled at Belly. "And you'll get to spend more time with him." Belly blushed. "I'll have to support him." "That's fine." Petra shrugged. Small details didn't matter. They left the room and went to the cozy lobby where Bill was waiting. Petra was slightly more nervous. "You are very beautiful, Belly," Petra said, pausing. "Also on the inside. I know he sees that. He can try to take on too much. James is similar," Petra warned. "Make sure he has fun, too." Then she leaned forward and kissed Belly on the forehead. "You don't need me to say it, but I support you." Belly remembered raising her hand to knock, then hearing another woman nearby, so she quickly stepped back. This time there was silence. Taking a deep breath, she knocked. Another difference was that she had been unsure about her feelings for the man in room 103. Now her heart raced when he opened the door. "Hey, Belly," John Smith said, looking curious. "Is everything all right?" She smiled brightly and held up her basket. "Have you eaten?" "No," he replied. "Not yet." "Do you like Indian food?" He returned her smile. "Yes, I actually do." "So?" she asked playfully. "Are you going to let me in?" He stepped back and motioned for her to come inside. "What the?" she exclaimed when she saw large sheets of paper scattered across the bed, along with a laptop showing 2 extra screens. That didn't even count the 2 open notebooks filled with notes. "What is all this?" she asked, recognizing building plans and diagrams, along with programming code on the screens. He shrugged. "Just working on a few things." She recalled what his aunt had told her not long ago, that he sometimes worked too hard to cope with his struggles. It made her want to back away. Then she thought about 3 kids in her class, 2 boys and 1 girl. Allison Jong Park was confident and fit in well. The boys were different. She had only heard Henry Lisser's voice once when she passed by the coding club, where he was fixing a coding issue. Kevin Maines did talk, but often held back because of his insecurities, unless he was at a computer, where his cleverness showed. She reminded herself she was approaching him to help those kids after seeing their disappointment. "Let me guess, you're planning to take over the world?" He looked at her, a mixture of confusion and amusement on his face. Mwahahaha, she teased. He smirked. Yes, this is my doomsday device. When it's ready, I, Dr. Malevolus von Evil, will rule the world. His serious tone mixed with the silly accent made her laugh, and he smiled back. Now you just need a lab and sidekicks. He looked around. And a cat to stroke while I plan my world takeover. Very important. She giggled while clearing space on the table by the window. Then her gaze fell on a photo on the dresser, Amaya sitting on his lap on her birthday, eyes closed and smiling. A wave of sadness and guilt hit her. He hadn't put back the little drawings Amaya had stuck everywhere, but he had gotten this one framed. She wondered how he managed to come back to this room, filled with memories of her. He wasn't running from his feelings. He was confronting them, learning to cope. An urge to comfort him filled her, but she held back. Well, I bring food for your plans, she said, trying to sound cheerful. But there are conditions. His eyebrow raised. Oh. I need a favor, she said, unpacking containers of curry, cold drinks, and packs of bread, the delicious smells filling the space, and I'm not above using food to persuade. A bribe. He watched as she set out the food. That smells amazing. Mr. Nanjiani's cooking is famous, she said with mock seriousness. I might share, if you help some kids with their coding. He paused, moving papers off the bed. Coding? We have a coding club at school, she explained as she set out plates. Dr. Chen ran it, but she has to leave to care for her parents. The kids have a competition soon and need a supervisor. I'm not a teacher. She looked at him hopefully. I can vouch for you, and it's just a few hours after school, 2 days a week. She hesitated, doubting if she was making things harder for him. But if you're too busy, it's okay. No, hold on, he said, considering her request. Then he met her eyes again. So you're bribing me to take on kids who will follow my orders? She smiled and snorted. I guess that's true. Yes. He grinned. All right, I can try depending on the schedule. It's flexible, Belly said, her excitement showing. Are you sure? He shrugged. That's why I said I'll try. Thank you, she said. Thank you so much. He shrugged again and looked at her. Now, what about my bribe? Sit down, and I'll serve you your grand evilness, she said, hanging up her jacket. She felt a twinge of guilt as she turned to see him watching her, his expression unreadable. She had chosen a casual outfit, wanting to seem friendly while still hoping he saw her as a woman. Grand evilness, he chuckled. I like that, she smirked. I'm not sure evilness is a real word. As the future ruler of the world, John declared, I say evilness is an important and respected word. She raised an eyebrow. You've thought about this evil ruler thing a lot, haven't you? He shrugged. I read the Overlord list. What's that? He smiled. It's a nerd thing. I'll show you. Someday. Okay. She started putting some sauce on a plate. What's your spice level? Hot, medium, or mild? Very hot, he said, making her look up. Vindaloo, fall, but I also like korma, jalfrezi, madras, all good. That made her happy. Me too. He sat cross-legged on the floor next to her, watching her tear the bread and stack it on his plate. So tell me about these future kids of mine. She looked at him and smiled wider, glad he was interested. Well, there are 3 in my class. There's Henry. He hardly speaks except when he's coding. And Kevin, who is smart, but feels shy because of his teeth. What's wrong with his teeth? He asked, taking the plate she handed him. He has a condition called cleidocranial dysplasia, she explained. I didn't know until he was in my class. He doesn't have any front teeth. I don't know what that is, he said, but I'll look it up. And Allison, she continued. You might want to be careful with her. Is she going to challenge me? Yes. Belly laughed as he took a bite of naan and goat curry. He swallowed and looked at the piece of naan in his hand. This is really good. I'm glad you like it, she said, settling down next to him and feeling warm as their shoulders and knees touched. Mr. Nanjiani's son, Ruchi, is also in the club. There's more good food where this came from. He chuckled. Okay, you've convinced me. She nudged him playfully. and they enjoyed the meal in comfortable silence, eating with their hands. "I have to say again," he said after finishing, "this is really good. Nanjiani used to be a mechanical engineer before he started this restaurant." "Really?" John looked curious. "He began cooking as a hobby to relieve stress," she said. "Then it became his passion. His wife was surprised when he quit his job to open the restaurant. He was a vice president at a rail company." "And now?" John asked. "Is she involved?" Belly smiled. "Now she manages the business. Their daughter's husband and his older son also work as chefs there." John smiled. "It's funny how things work out." Given how she felt when she first met him, she couldn't agree more. "So when is this competition?" he asked. 3 weeks from Saturday," Belly said. "It's a hackathon at the university for middle and high school students." He nodded. "How many hours do they get?" Belly thought for a moment. "It's a weekend-long event. It's all online. To be honest, I don't know too much about it." "Okay. It's just, they were so excited about it, and it would be awful if they missed out because we couldn't find someone qualified to work with them." She paused. "As your guarantor, I'll need to be there with you most of the time." "Okay," John said with a smile, tilting his head as he considered. "Do you know the language they've been using with Dr. Chen?" "I know that," she said proudly. "It's called Zebra." His eyebrows raised. "Really? That's ambitious for middle school. I heard you're really good at it." "From who?" "Talana," Belly said. "So you and Talana have been talking about me?" he teased. "No," she replied, blushing. "I met her with Ben," John suggested. She stared at him. "You knew?" He shrugged. "He asked me if James was there yet." "Oh, James actually told me he thought they would make a good couple," he continued. "I told him to go for it." "It's strange, isn't it?" Belly said after a moment. "What's strange?" "She's so small and he's so big, but they actually look good together." He grinned. "I'll take your word for it. But I thought they would too." "Like your Aunt Petra and Bill Garrison?" she teased. "They look so sweet together, almost like teenagers. Except she's taller. And she'd call you a naughty girl for saying that." He smiled. "I told her she has a curfew." "What did she say?" He laughed. "She said, 'See you in the morning.' I think I heard Bill almost choke." Belly laughed too. "You really care about her, don't you?" He smiled. "Auntie Petty?" "Yes. She was like another mother to us when Mom sent us to Uncle Gary. Bill reminds her of him. She loved him very much." "Isn't it strange to see her dating your boss?" He shrugged. "Maybe. But Bill is a great guy, and what matters is that she's happy. So I'm fine with it." Her heart warmed at his words. His love was clear and genuine. But before she could reply, he finished his mango lassi and asked, "So what did Talana say?" "I never did any zebra coding with her." Belly looked at him. "She told me you're great at explaining things, that you coach students on it at the Flavor Bomb." The light faded from his eyes, and she noticed his expression change. "Amia set that all up," he said, gazing off into the distance. "She got them to pay for it. But those students were in university, not middle school." "What about Aaron and David?" she challenged. "You taught them how to wire a house, remember?" He smiled softly. "I'll try my best. Just hope I don't let you all down." She shook her head playfully. "All the signs show you know how to teach, John Smith, so I'm not worried at all. 14 if she counted Andress. How she pretended to enjoy her job and even earned tips from several customers. How Andress, pleased with her work, called her a natural and was preparing her for the future when she noticed 2 officers having coffee. She hadn't spoken English then and was desperate for someone to help her reach her mother and sister to warn them to escape from Salkrasti. Fortunately, a nearby man was a Belarusian with family in Riga, and he understood her broken Latvian. She spoke Russian, which many Latvians do, and he translated for her. Her mother and sister left their small apartment for the embassy less than 2 hours before Andress's call set his contacts in Riga to go to Salkrasti for revenge. After the trial, she kept a small portion of the reward money for exposing a trafficking ring and sent the rest to assist her mother and sister in settling in Germany, away from her and from any potential danger. She finally revealed why she disliked alcohol. It stemmed from her father's death caused by a drunk driver and her brother's fate after a fight when he was drunk. Then there were several men she had to be with, including Andres, who all smelled of alcohol. I followed Andres because he had money and could help me with a dancing and modeling career, she shared. I had to make some tough choices. He looked at her for a long time, his face hard to read, making her feel a bit uneasy. Then he shook his head. "You're being too hard on yourself, Petra," Bill Garrison said in a rough voice. "You were young, misled, and faced difficult times. You did what you had to do to survive and protect your mother and sister." He sat up and took her hand gently. "You showed bravery and helped many women in similar situations, including those who might have been hurt by Andres and his friends." He offered her comfort, praising her strength. "You are even more admirable than I imagined." My Gary," Petra said, tears filling her eyes, "said these things too. But—" "No more buts, Petra," Bill said firmly but kindly. "Your husband was wise and kind. He spoke the truth. You are an incredible woman, and I am lucky to know you." Petra felt overwhelmed and couldn't find the words. He lifted her chin gently. "And please don't talk about yourself negatively again. Do you understand?" She smiled through her tears. "Yes. Yes, Bill." Her Gary had given her the same reminder, his face encouraging. As Bill continued to say kind things, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. Belly had given him directions, but he also used GPS and arrived at the Castman building with a few minutes to spare. The contracts were signed, and the building had been cleared out over the last week. Mike Lyman took charge in his usual direct manner after Bill welcomed the teams and explained their tasks. Greta only came by once in an official way, sitting beside the foreman during lunch and leaning against him. Despite the attention, Mike's farewell was friendly before he moved on. The team leaders and their assistants walked through the site to start making work plans and setting schedules before each leader went over the details with their full teams. AJ joined Randall and the electrical crew, followed by the 4 new apprentices assigned to him. The briefing after that was simple, although he asked them to create their own networking plan for comparison. Then he left Randall, Mike, and Bill and headed to his first meeting with the coding club at McMasterson Academy. Belly walked out of the main building to meet him as he parked, beaming with joy. "You made it!" she exclaimed, wrapping her arms around him as he stepped out of the car. "The kids will be thrilled. They're already waiting." He hugged her back, surprised by her excitement. "You'll need to see the principal first," she said, linking her arm through his. "Come," she said, guiding him. The school was in what had once been a large house with newer buildings added over the years. The main building's red brick walls were partly covered in ivy, and the afternoon sun made the windows shine. "It might not look like much," Belly said, feeling a bit shy as they climbed the worn stone steps, "but the kids are amazing." The entrance hall had aged wood paneling that was well cared for and polished. Display cases along the walls showed off student achievements, debate trophies, science fair ribbons, and a few sports medals. There was pride without boasting. Sharon Alburn's office reflected the same spirit. The furniture was practical, and children's art shared wall space with school banners. The principal was a stout woman in her 60s, who greeted them warmly with a smile. "So you're the coding expert," she said, shaking his hand. "Belinda's been praising you." He noticed Belly's slight blush as he shook the principal's hand. "I hope I can help." "Well, I hear good things about you from Fred Linden and Jason Frankel, and of course Belinda here," Sharon said, inviting them to sit. "Though I admit this coding stuff confuses me." "Sometimes it confuses me too," AJ said, thinking about the twins' complex programming tasks. "Don't sell yourself short, Mr. Smith," Sharon replied with a grin. "My godson told me you helped him with this zebra project. He thought he'd get a C, but with your help, he got an A-. Belly's eyes widened. "What? You never mentioned this." She shrugged. "I just found out from Samuel yesterday." She turned to AJ, leaning in slightly. "These kids aren't from wealthy families, Mr. Smith. Being recognized at events like this hackathon could really help them." "I'll do my best," AJ promised, feeling a fondness for her. She nodded and continued. I'll let you and Belinda go so you can start, but there's some paperwork for the Teachers' Council. They shook hands again, and Belly let him out. Lydia, Dr. Chen started this 2 years ago before I came, Belly said as they walked down the hallway. She really helped those kids open up. Her arm stayed linked with his, and she was clearly excited. When she said she was leaving, the kids were heartbroken. She didn't notice the few students and teachers quietly watching him. She opened a door labeled Coding Lab and showed him inside what was clearly an old storage room. He looked at the outlines of shelves still visible on the gray-painted walls. Desktops were set up around the room, with a whiteboard taking up one wall. The other wall was covered in student projects and posters for competitions. 11 young faces turned to look at him, some curious, and others a bit cautious. Okay, AJ, he thought, recalling his first day in middle school. Just remember, they won't bite. Rachel had told him that while they walked to the principal's office. She had tried to hold his hand, but he instinctively knew that letting her do that in front of the other kids wouldn't be a good idea. Luckily, she understood and playfully ruffled his hair instead. After flying in from Abu Dhabi to stay with Uncle Gary and Aunt Petra, Rachel went with him and James on their first day at St. Martin's and stayed with them for the rest of the week. And if they do bite, Gary had said, parking his big truck, just show them you're tougher. James quickly became popular in high school because of his height and basketball skills, along with his excellent grades and a small incident involving a bee. AJ realized he needed to find his own way in middle school. Being the new kid, while others already had friends from elementary school, he decided to join the Junior Ranger Corps. Even the athletes were hesitant about picking on the soldier boys. "Hey, everyone," Belly called out, bringing him back to the moment. "This is Mr. John Smith. He's going to supervise you, so you won't miss out on the hackathon." She was practically bouncing with excitement. There was some whispering until a girl with perfect hair and good posture raised her hand. "Are you really qualified to take Dr. Chen's place?" He liked how straightforward she was and recognized her as Allison Jong Park. He decided to respond in a more military-style approach. "Great question. But first, please introduce yourself." The girl blinked, then regained her composure. "I'm Allison Jiho Jong Park." "Grade?" he asked. "8th," she replied. "Good. I am not here to replace Dr. Chen," he continued. "I'm not that great." That got their attention and even drew smiles, including from Allison. "But I do know coding," he added, "and I know Zebra." "Which version?" came a quiet voice from the back. The boy was looking down at the desk. "Please introduce yourself," AJ asked, knowing it was Kevin Maines. "Kevin," he said, glancing up. "I've worked with versions 1, 7 to 3. 6, AJ explained. He moved to the board. "First, everyone needs to stand up and introduce yourselves. Then we'll see where you all are and start preparing for this hackathon." "Hackathon!" some students yelled. He shrugged. "Whatever the name, we'll make it great. Now everyone stand up. At attention, please." All 11 students scrambled to their feet, more out of confusion than obedience. One student leaned on a table, but it was a start. "From the left, name, grade, coding experience," AJ instructed. A tall boy cleared his throat. "Ruchi Nanjiani, 7th grade. I started coding with Dr. Chen last year." "I'm Henry Lisser," came a quiet voice from the back. 8th grade. "I've been coding since I was 9. One by one, they introduced themselves. After Kevin and Allison, there was Sarah Payne, Tommy Wu, Maria Delgado, brothers Jake and Josh Peterson, Ricardo Martinez, and Lisa Holman. "Good," AJ said, turning to the whiteboard. "Now let's see where each of you stands." He wrote 3 problems. 1. Create a function that finds the longest word in a sentence. 2. Create a function that checks if a number is prime. 3. Design a simple scoring system for a game where players can gain points, lose points, and keep a high score. "You have 30 minutes, he announced. "Choose anyone, or take on all 3 if you're feeling up to it. Show me what you can do." He noticed Belly looking at him with curiosity as the students dove into their computers. 6 had laptops, while the other 5 were using desktop computers. He watched carefully. While moving around the room, he saw how different students worked. Henry, though quiet, quickly got to problem 3, typing rapidly. Allison systematically began with problem 1. Kevin appeared stuck, staring at his screen, hands hovering above the keyboard. AJ quietly approached him. "What interests you the most?" he asked gently. "The game one," Kevin admitted, covering his mouth. "But—" "Then start there," AJ encouraged. "Don't worry about making it perfect. Just begin." AJ continued to survey the room, noting that Ruchi and Sarah took some time to jot down notes before typing. After 20 minutes, he called out, "Time check, 10 minutes left." The room filled with the sound of typing. When time was up, he had them show their work one by one on the projector. Henry's game scoring system was nicely done, though it was a bit complex. "Good work," AJ praised. "But what happens if a player's score goes negative?" Henry looked up, surprised. "Oh." His hands fidgeted. "We'll revisit that," AJ assured him. "Allison?" Her word-finding function was neatly crafted. She had even considered errors for empty strings and non-alphabetic characters. "Clean code," he noted. Kevin's version of the game system was simpler than Henry's, but he had addressed the issue of negative scores. "Very good," AJ said. "Thank you," Kevin said, momentarily forgetting to cover his mouth. Ruchi and Maria, seated apart, had used the square root method to find divisors. If they only found one divisor, which was the number 1, then it was prime. After reviewing everyone's work, AJ felt he had a good idea of their skills and where Dr. Chen had guided them. They were able to think up and implement algorithms. His opinion of her, already high, climbed even more. But a hackathon wasn't only about individual skills. He stepped back to the whiteboard. "Now let me show you how we'll manage this hackathon." "First," he started to write, ignoring the shouted correction, "we need to remember that coding isn't just about writing. It's about solving problems step by step." He made 3 columns: to do, in progress, and done. "This," he explained, "is a Scrum board. It will help us keep track of how far we've come." Belly smiled at that, and he noticed her encouraging and proud look. It made him almost lose focus. "In real life," AJ continued, "teams use this to follow their progress. My uncle taught me that good planning saves a lot of time later, and he was talking about building things." He added a 4th column, testing. Absolutely nothing moves to done until it has been tested," he stated firmly. "That's our first rule." Allison raised her hand. "Dr. Chen mentioned we should test our code, but that takes time, right?" AJ suggested. "But remember this, tests aren't extra work, they're time savers. They find issues before they become bigger problems." He returned to the board. "What we'll do every time we meet and for homework." He smiled at the groans. "Is little coding projects that can connect. Your function will return information to your partner's function. And each meeting will start with everyone sharing what they completed, how they did it, and any challenges they faced." Kevin raised his hand shyly. "Like status reports?" "Better," AJ said, "because we'll solve problems together. If someone is stuck, we help. If someone finds a better way, we share." He scanned the room. "For the hackathon, we'll work in pairs. 1 codes, 1 reviews. Then you switch." "Like pilots and co-pilots?" Tommy asked eagerly. Ruchi had another idea. "Sniper and spotter." "Both fit," AJ noted as he wrote pair programming on the board. "The person not typing plays an important role too. They catch problems, suggest improvements, and keep an eye on what needs testing." He noticed the brothers, Jake and Josh, exchange glances. "I saw some of your earlier projects on the wall," he continued. "Great job. But for this hackathon, we need to be more organized and disciplined. We need to work as a team. For example," AJ sat on the edge of a desk looking around, "who worked on the field trip calendar?" Several hands went up, including Henry's and Allison's. "How did you split up the tasks?" "We kind of just worked on different parts," Maria admitted. "And how much time did you spend making those parts fit together?" They exchanged guilty looks. Even Allison appeared uneasy. 4 days, Henry said quietly. "The database links kept failing." "What if you had a common commenting system that everyone used?" he asked, thinking of the Abrams twins. More sheepish looks. "Right." AJ stood and returned to the board. "This time we plan before we act. We design first. Then we code, comment our code, and document everything." He wrote requirements at the top of the board. What do we know about the hackathon problem? It has to help the community, Lisa offered. AJ admired her typing speed, given her unique challenges. And use open data, Allison added. Good. What else? As they shared their ideas, he wrote each point down. Then he drew a line and wrote, questions. What don't we know? What do we need to learn? This sparked another discussion. To everyone's surprise, Henry had several insights about possible technical issues. Kevin even got into a light debate with Sarah, and for a moment, he forgot to cover his mouth. See how this works? AJ said after the board was filled. We're not just diving in. We're planning our approach. He wiped the board clean and wrote tools. Version control, Kevin said right away, then quickly covered his mouth. Yes, that's essential, AJ agreed. What else? Testing framework, Tommy suggested. IDE setup, Rucci added. A common commenting system, said Ricardo, shifting uncomfortably. AJ noticed he had moved a lot. Documentation, Maria contributed. Great, AJ said. These are our first tasks. By the end of the day, I want everyone's development setup to be ready. It should be consistent. You all need to gather and decide what you want. He stepped back. Remember, you're a team, so ask each other for help first. If you still have issues, you can ask your parents to call me. We'll review next time and solve any remaining problems together. He decided to add something fun. And I think coding club is a bit boring. We're now Dr. Chen's coding battalion. We'll come up with a motto by our next meeting. He saw everyone sit up straighter, including Allison, Henry, and Kevin. And Belly was smiling at him, her eyes bright. He smiled back. You're dismissed. Come in, Belly said. Her mom had a special knock when she was cheerful, and with Ben gone and their dad occupied, no one else would be knocking at this time. Her mother entered with a teapot, 2 mugs, and a small basket of pastries. Pam Thompson, she thought, was playful. Pam glanced at the clothes on the bed and grinned. Are we going on a fun outing? Belly's face turned red. No, I'm just helping him with his forms for the Teachers' Council. Then her face turned even redder at her mom's teasing look. She instantly recognized who him was. Okay. Pam raised an eyebrow as she put her things down on Belly's desk. And is that why you need to try on so many outfits? I just want to look. Belly mumbled, suddenly focused on folding a blouse she wasn't even considering. Professional? Professional. Pam's tone was playful as she poured the tea. So why does everything I see show so much of your midriff? It's not. Belly began to argue, but then sighed and sat down, giving in. She frowned as her mom laughed and handed her a cup. I don't like this. Pam chuckled. And I care about you. Belly wrinkled her nose, but a smile soon followed. So, Pam said after taking a sip, I guess the coding club went well. Oh my gosh, Mom, Belly exclaimed. He was. Amazing. Really? Really amazing? Pam remarked, raising an eyebrow. Wow. And it's not the coding club anymore. It's the coding battalion. He renamed it. After Dr. Chen. Pam raised her eyebrows. That sounds very organized. He used to be a junior ranger, Belly explained. You should have seen him, Mom. I think Sarah and Maria are already a little taken with him. Competition? Her mother teased. Belly wrinkled her nose at her mom again, but couldn't stop the smile forming on her face. He was incredible with them. Even Henry was joining in, and Kevin forgot to cover his mouth. The poor kid with the dental problem? CCD? CCD, Mom? Pam shrugged but smiled widely. That's wonderful. Yes! Belly sipped her tea, enjoying the mix of chamomile, lemon, honey, ginger, and thyme. She thought about how her mom wasn't so annoying after all, but her own feelings surfaced as she curled her legs underneath her. I don't know what to do, Mom. He's still hurting. I can see it sometimes like today, when something reminded him of her. Of Amaya, Pam said softly. Yes. Belly wrapped her hands around her warm mug. I think it was me. He looked at me, and I could see the sadness in his eyes. Oh, sweetheart. Pam reached out to gently touch her hair. It's okay. It's not, Mom, Belly replied, staring down. I still feel guilty, like I'm taking advantage of her absence. like I'm disrespecting her memory. Pam smiled reassuringly. Having feelings for someone isn't disrespectful, and John is healing in his own way. Just be there for him. But what if that's all I ever am? Just there? The words rushed out. What if he always thinks of me as the one who was unkind to him when he needed support? You think he's that? Unforgiving? No, Belly answered honestly. He's not. Exactly, Pam agreed. He's a good, strong, and kind man who is grieving. Honestly, I'd be worried if you didn't feel this way about him. Belly chewed her lip. Pam squeezed her hand. You're very beautiful, Belly, and I'm not just saying that because I'm your mother. She stroked her daughter's hair. He's not blind. Belly smiled. Petra said that too. And who knows him better? Pam asked confidently. Just be patient and be there for him. Belly rested her cheek against her mother's hand. Pam grinned and reached for the pastry. In the meantime, let's enjoy this lovely basket, and you can tell me more about how amazing he was with the kids. Belly smiled as some of her worry lifted. Then she glanced at the clothes still scattered across her bed. So, which top should I wear? About an hour later, she stood blushing in front of room 103, holding an envelope and a basket. He opened the door when she knocked, dressed casually. Hey, Belly. I'm here with the forms for the Teachers' Council, she said quickly. Oh, thanks, he replied, stepping back to let her in. He noticed the basket. Is that another bribe? No, she said with a grin. It's a little surprise. Oh my, he said in admiration. You're quite the charmer, Miss Belly Thompson. She curtsied. Why, thank you, Dr. Von Mischief. I'm glad you noticed, especially. She gestured at the blueprints and the unusual laptop on the bed as she took off her jacket. While you're busy with your plans. You are hard to miss, Miss Thompson. His tone lacked an accent as he said her name, and she felt a thrill as their eyes met. Honey, her mom had said, smiling, you have beautiful features. Wear this. I promise you. She winked. He'll notice. Mom, she had replied, but had chosen to wear the pretty shirt with a flowing skirt. Pam had found a comfortable bra and tossed it to her. Change into this one. Belly wasn't sure about it, and she reassessed her mother. Pam Thompson was quite the character. Pam's smile grew even wider. Or skip the bra entirely, more confidence. She wore the bra. Now, as she caught John's kind gaze, glad he appreciated what he saw, she was thankful for her mother's strong influence. Was that a compliment, Mr. Smith? She asked. He smiled back. Yes, Miss Thompson. She smiled, heart racing. Thank you. You're welcome, he replied. Then his expression shifted, and the moment passed. Can I see the forms? She pushed aside her disappointment, focusing on business. As your guarantor, I need to sign and witness it. He sat on the bed, reaching for the envelope. Okay. He quickly filled out the form in capital letters as she watched him name, age, birth date, phone number, email, and schools he attended. He had a master's degree in advanced computing and software engineering, which didn't surprise her. He paused at one section, residential address, smiling sadly before writing down the bed and breakfast address. He skipped the marital status box until finishing the criminal history part, then returned to it. He looked at the options: single, married, divorced, and widowed. When he glanced up at her, she felt her breath get deeper, sensing something important. He put the pen near the married box, but didn't mark it. Belly stared at him, surprised and regretful, as her eyes landed on the picture of him and Amaya. Oh my goodness. It slipped out before she could stop herself. You and Amaya got married? Before? No. He shook his head, his eyes shining but dry. I wish we did, but no. He took a deep breath. I am or was married. To someone else. Oh my goodness. We separated, he said, looking away. That's when I got here. He turned back and shrugged. She left me for another man. She said he was her true love. And I wasn't. For just a moment she saw the pain, shock, and sadness in his eyes. The struggles she had witnessed were from a deeply wounded man, hurt by someone he had loved greatly. And now she saw him trying to recover and find happiness again, facing more challenges. He was grieving yet standing strong, trying to heal by helping others, even working on a project called the Coding Battalion. In that moment, Belly knew she loved him. All she wanted was to support him. She realized now it was exactly what Amaya had done. She had fully committed to helping him, loving him completely. But Amaya was gone. So Belly decided that she would do the same for him. I just signed the papers and walked away. John continued softly. Then I got on the train and came here. He looked up. I really don't know what my marriage status is. I just know it wasn't real. It never was. Belly reached out and took his hand. I don't want her, he said after a pause, his gaze on the form where the pen sat near the married box. To know where I am. I don't want anyone to contact her about me. Mark single, Belly whispered. I'll sign it. That could get you in trouble, he replied. Then I'll accept the trouble, Belly said. I'm ready for anything for you. She noticed he was looking at her lips, and warmth filled her as emotions washed over her. Just then, there was a knock on the door. A cheerful voice called, I'm back! Come to my room to spend time with me! Don't forget I'm leaving tomorrow. Belly liked Petra a lot, but frustration swept over her. Be right there, he called back. Then he smiled at Belly, the warmth fading. I don't think... She quickly grabbed the form and snatched the pen from his hand. Before he could say anything, she marked the single box and initialed the line. She signed the document swiftly. Are you sure? Go see your auntie, Belly said. She handed him the sweat basket with a mix of regret and relief. And take this with you. He thought Bill Garrison would take her to the airport the next day since he had spent the night in room 102. With her. They had a fun evening with Petra, recalling how she had tried to play video games when they first moved in with her and Uncle Gary, making a bit of a mess. But thanks to secret lessons from Patrick and some ballet students, she became skilled at a racing game and beat James in front of a laughing Uncle Gary. Her goofy victory dance became a tradition. She did it after every child's graduation, including his and James', making sure everyone joined in, even his resigned uncle. They video-called James and Rachel, and AJ had answered Katerina, Mihail, and Alana's curious questions about his boss and their mother's new boyfriend, who had extended her stay in Camberley. That led to some lighthearted teasing from his somewhat embarrassed aunt. Rachel and James clearly enjoyed hearing about Petra and Bill's growing relationship and teased her playfully. I have more to tell, Petra said to Rachel, grinning, but not in front of the kids. Belly was present for all of it, even when she tried to step back. Once he opened the door and Petra saw her, eyebrow raised with a knowing smile, she was welcomed into the fun. They played cards and shared Belly's sweat basket alongside Petra's favorite Latvian lingonberry tea. You cheat, Petra exclaimed after losing again. But when she did win, she celebrated with playful jabs, thoroughly enjoying herself regardless of the game's outcome. It was Auntie Petty saying goodbye in her special way, and he cherished that about her. He sensed Belly's heart was also warmed when Bill Garrison arrived. Belle! Petra exclaimed, surprised and happy. Though they had spent time together before, she was clearly happy to see him again. Why? He had invited her to his home for lunch with his kids, and everything seemed to go well. She had worried it might be too soon, but Bill didn't seem to have that concern. This is your last night, Bill said, not realizing her nephew, who had opened the door, was right there. And we're spending it together. But, Petra stuttered, a bit surprised. Hi, Bill, AJ said, offering his hand. Bill shook it. Hi, John. AJ held on for a moment longer. Bye, Bill. Bill smiled. Bye, John. Belly looked at Petra, who appeared a little shocked by the sudden change in plans. Quietly, she dropped her cards, grabbed the envelope with the forms, and left the room after AJ. Hi, Mr. Garrison. Hi, Belly. Bye, Mr. Garrison. Bye, Belly. Bill, watching a startled Petra, closed the door behind him. AJ hurried to the front of 103. I don't know about you, he said to Belly, but I really don't want to hear Bill yelling. She giggled. He looked pretty eager, didn't he? He smiled back, shaking his head. I really don't want to think about it. I can see why you care for her, Belly said. He shrugged. I do. I think I care for her too, she added softly. Their eyes met, and the mood shifted slightly. I had a nice time, she said quietly. So did I. Their brief moment lingered as she placed her hands on his shoulders and gave him a quick kiss on the cheek before turning to leave. He stood in front of 103, watching her smile at him and wave goodbye before turning the corner. He touched his lips, remembering the moment, another special person saying farewell before fading from view. He felt a familiar weight inside, a mix of loss and frustration. A mix of feelings surged within him. It was heavy but somehow manageable. What he didn't feel was guilt for having enjoyed their moment together. No betrayal for accepting her kindness. He shook his head, entered his room, and returned to the computer work he had been doing before Belly and Petra came over. You are taking me to the airport, Petra told him firmly when he woke up to her knock at dawn. What happened to Bill? He asked, stifling a yawn and glancing away from her outfit. Petra smiled playfully. He's very tired. Stop, AJ exclaimed. She made a teasing face. You left me alone with him, a charming man. He covered his face. Please, just stop. 2, I came here for you, AJ, she continued, reaching to touch his cheek. When I come here for Bill, he can take me. I want to spend this last time with you. I care for you, Auntie Petty, he said sincerely. Her smile widened. I love you too, dear, very much. When you come here for Bill, AJ teased. She blushed. I want to. I really like him, AJ. He's like our Gary, but different. Uncle Gary would like him, AJ assured her. You think so? She asked, almost hopeful. Yes, AJ replied. I'm sure. She smiled at that, and he remembered Katerina crying as she shared her father's wish for her mother not to be alone. Then she looked toward her room door, slightly embarrassed. He rolled his eyes. He's still here, isn't he? Petra nodded, grinning. He said you could be late. She shrugged. He said to tell you, Mike and Randall know. He sighed. We have about 2 hours before we have to go. Go say goodbye. She smiled and leaned in to give him a friendly kiss on the cheek. I love you. He chuckled. I love you too. He closed the door as his aunt hurried off to enjoy more time with Bill Garrison. They left 2 hours and 13 minutes later, with Petra making sure to say goodbye to Don, Pam, Belly, Deborah, and Julia. He was not surprised that Petra had learned how to make media lunas and empanadas in exchange for teaching Julia to make silavina and matus kuka cakes. Petra insisted Deborah call Fred so she could say her goodbyes. Did she tell you I think you are cute? She asked, grinning at his wife. I wanted to steal you before Belly, but I like Deborah too much. I'm open to sharing. Fred laughed. No, you're not, Deborah yelled. Thank you, Fred, for taking care of my AJ John, Petra said sincerely. Thank you. My pleasure, Petra, Fred responded. It was one of the best decisions I ever made. AJ felt warmth rise in his cheeks. Thank you, Petra, said Deborah after the call ended, wagging her finger. Now he's going to feel special for the next month. Feel special? Petra raised her eyebrows. More fun for you, right? Deborah's mouth fell open before she laughed. There were more hugs as AJ waited in the car, with Petra sending her love to Ben. The hug with Belly lasted a little longer, and he watched the two women share a warm exchange, ending with Petra's hand on Belly's cheek. Petra said her heartfelt goodbyes to a still messy-looking Bill before sitting in the passenger seat. AJ opened the window so Bill could wave one last time before he put the car in gear and drove away from Millie and Milton's bed and breakfast. It was another nice drive to the airport. Petra was cheerful, and he enjoyed her stories about the latest class in the small ballet studio Gary had built for her behind their house. Katerina, Rena, was managing it, while willowy Elena, Ella, was doing most of the teaching in her absence. Her son, who got his mother's height and his father's strength, had some responsibilities to manage. Mihail, or Mikey, was becoming a bit of a distraction in Petra's studio. He caught the attention of many girls. She tried to act annoyed, but AJ could see she was proud of him. But he has his good big brothers to look up to, she finally said, giving AJ a light punch on the shoulder. Even though you are a bit of a nuisance sometimes. She only talked about Bill when they reached the airport gates after checking in. Bill says he wants to visit the kids before the month is over, she shared, looking a bit nervous. Is that too soon? He shrugged, not bothered. They already know about him. They know I think he's a good man. They know their father wanted you to be happy. But, she looked uneasy, I come to support you when you're sad, and now I'm starting my own relationship. He hugged her gently. You came. You made me laugh. You cared for me. He pulled back, his eyes filling with tears. You have no idea how much that meant to me. You silly boy, she sniffed. Finding love in Camberley is a good thing, he said firmly. I did, and I have no regrets. Not a single one. He smiled widely. I'm really happy for you, Auntie Petty. She hugged him tight. You'll find love again soon, AJ, Petra said, touching his cheek. You are a good man. I care for you very much. I care for you too, AJ replied. And if Bill doesn't get on a plane to see you by the end of the month, I'll have a word with him. You silly boy. Work at the Castman building had really begun. Mike, Bill, and the others wanted to achieve the same success they had with the previous project. The demolition and plumbing teams were the first to get to work, taking down the wall between the restrooms and clearing out the stalls. Arnie showed up with the lead female clerk, who playfully scolded the crews on behalf of the other women while Arnie laughed. To keep the peace, Bill offered lunch, which Arnie pretended to dislike. Joe, the plumbing chief, and his team quickly made use of the nearby water lines as they set up the new HVAC and fire control systems for the room. Another team came in to fix broken tiles, using some from the floor. AJ and his helpers worked quickly to set up the flooring and cable trays. From the new door, it looked like some ladders were neatly placed on the floor. The cables for different uses were already labeled with colored ties, helping everyone know where they went. AJ set up a uniform color system for tagging in coordination with Randall and Bill. Even though he was a bit anxious, Mike asked him to give a presentation on wire organization to all the teams. After replacing the old grounding systems, the electrical team installed the main panels and were quickly laying wires to connect power to the basement. Once everything was connected, AJ's team would take over the rest of the wiring, both electrical and networking. He felt pleased to see that the 3 networking diagrams from the team were almost identical, except for one thing. Chike found an unused pipe that would make the work much easier and faster. Mike sent Chike a soda can as a thank you. Linda Sonner, Joe's daughter, loved her dad and decided to join the trades, but she was better with wires than pipes. She was small and not great with heavy items, but she could handle cables skillfully. Brandon and Juan were childhood friends, helping bring the power lines into the old restrooms. Linda was not thrilled when she heard that Juan was in a relationship, especially since she had started changing her look. But she soon returned to her old style when Chike, a single architecture student, showed up. The power lines came in as planned, and Juan led the way, making everyone breathe a sigh of relief as another job was completed. Is it all good? Randall asked AJ, holding his clipboard. AJ gave a thumbs up. Yep. Randall moved along. Linda was already busy, quickly checking the tagged ties along each run. She had become very dedicated to tagging and labeling, which made it easier for everyone to find the lines. Randall accepted her improved system without complaints, and Mike rewarded her with a soda, causing her to squeal with happiness. Brandon chuckled. No one messes with your tags, Linda. Just relax. She rolled her eyes at him but kept working. Everything seems good from here, Chike noted. Her reply was a smile, which made Brandon roll his eyes in a playful way as she finished her checks, visibly relieved. The 2 UPS units arrived just as Randall's team wrapped up their work with the junction boxes. AJ, Chike, Juan, and Brandon quickly moved the large power boxes with the help of the electrical team, while Linda gathered materials and labeled them. Linda, AJ called out, noticing her interest in Chike with a small smile. Let's start getting things ready. Fiber first. She felt a little shy, but turned her full attention back to her work. Linda organized the fiber bundles in their labeled paths, while Brandon and Juan worked on securing the power units with the electrical team. Chike stood nearby, asking questions and helping when needed. Here, Linda said to Chike, giving him a special fiber tool. Hold it like this, then turn and pull C. Chike grinned. I do it this way. He showed her. Pull, twist. Linda didn't get it at first, so she tried his method and he tried hers. I think I like your way better, Chike said, considering her technique. I think I like mine better too, she replied, making him laugh. Brandon rolled his eyes at their playful exchange while Juan just smiled. AJ checked the time and called out directions, and the team got to work. Juan and Brandon joined him to secure the racks and connect the power. They set up the network equipment according to his plan, while Linda and Chike began connecting cables to the switch panels. AJ guided the process, ensuring someone always checked the work against their list to catch any mistakes. They took turns doing this, sharing responsibilities. As Uncle Gary always said, it's good to have extra eyes to catch errors and help each other learn. He thought about the pair programming method he used with his coding group, another responsibility in his job. They worked through lunch, focused until all 4 racks were set up and connected, featuring servers, firewalls, security systems, storage arrays, and switches. Each rack had its own backup unit. There was excitement as the racks connected to the main server room and powered on. The ventilation system kicked in, and AJ slid out the KVM module, watching as it lit up with a welcome message. He checked each machine's status one by one. Yes. Juan high-fived Chike and Linda before bumping fists with Brandon when the last unit showed a happy green light. AJ looked at them seriously. Did you see what I did? Did you catch the commands? Yes, sir, Brandon replied with a smile, and his colleagues nodded. Good. He gestured to the other 3 racks. You can start now. 2 of you work on one each. Brandon's smile vanished as the apprentices divided into pairs, Brandon with Juan, Linda with Chike. Chike and Brandon will finish the last one, he said, glancing at the time. I have to go now, he continued. Juan, you're in charge, but Linda will lead on cable management. Follow her instructions. They looked nervous, but he acted like he didn't notice their worry. I'll see you all tomorrow? He asked, making sure they understood. They all nodded and smiled back. He returned their smile of gratitude before casually leaving the Casaman building, which felt cooler now that they were done. AJ walked into the flavor bomb, welcomed by the rich smells of coffee, milkshakes, and sandwiches. It also reminded him of memories that he felt but tried to leave behind. He walked in, preparing himself for the day. The cafe was quiet for a weekday afternoon, with only a few students chatting and enjoying their food. Cindy smiled at him and pointed to the corner where the twins were already seated. He noticed she wore her hair down and was dressed differently today. The twins had their laptops open, and Folake sat across from them with a book. She looked up and smiled as he approached. Good afternoon, John. Hey, Folake, AJ replied, smiling back as he sat down. Gentlemen? Good afternoon, Mr. Smith, they said together, not looking up. They wore matching outfits, with Ethan in teal and Nathan in purple. Day off? AJ asked Folake while unpacking his laptop. Yes, she stretched. I actually got 5 hours of sleep. That's great. He glanced around. Where's Marina? She had been with them for all their meetings. Her smile faded a little. Not feeling it today, I'm afraid. AJ frowned. Is she all right? She's fine, Folake said, reassuring him. Just taking a break. He scanned her face, sensing something unsaid. Is everything okay? He hinted at the boys, knowing their aunt played a big role in their support. They're excited about today, Folake said, changing the subject. They stayed up late working on their project. AJ shifted focus. That's good to hear. He looked at the boys. Let's see what you've been working on. They turned their screens toward him at the same time, as if planned, though it was clearly just a coincidence. Cindy laughed as she came over to set down a tray of milkshakes. Ethan quickly grabbed the chocolate shake from the tray. Nathan picked up the vanilla shake and took a sip through the straw. Their movements were so similar it looked planned. I ordered shakes for everyone, Folake said, pointing to Cindy. She said you liked the berry blend? Cindy raised an eyebrow as if daring him to disagree while she set cups in front of the adults. He smiled and replied, She's right. Cindy returned his smile. Good answer. Then she placed a plate in front of him. I know you like this too. It's on the house. Oh, he said, touched. Thank you, Cindy. You're very welcome. She smiled and walked away. He noticed Folake looking at him with a curious expression. What? Nothing, she replied. What is that? She pointed at the sandwich. It's a chili and onion, roast chicken, and mac and cheese melt. Sounds and smells too good to be healthy. It probably is, he admitted, taking a big bite. Ethan set down his shake, followed by Nathan, signaling that it was time to start working. The coding they had created was really impressive. They took his traffic analogy and added to it in AX, making a smooth system for managing platform elements based on complexity and available resources. This part, Nathan said, pointing while keeping his hands steady. The compiler looks at the branch points, Ethan explained, tapping his fingers lightly. They effectively built a traffic control system for the platform's internal operations. AJ smiled, finding the code dense yet so well organized that he could easily follow their explanations. It was just like he would have done it, only much more neatly, with greater detail. The operations get complicated here, Nathan pointed out, not making eye contact. Still acceptable, Ethan added, fingers moving in quick taps. AJ expected this, but could see it was still a concern for them. It bothered him as well. A rare edge case could cause an issue. Folake observed her sons closely, seeming to monitor their exchanges with him while trying to grasp a technologically advanced world that was very different from her medical background. They worked through dinner last night, Folake said during the silence as they looked at the screens. I had to bring their food to their room. This is really good work, AJ said at last, genuinely. They didn't look up, but he noticed their shoulders relax. What if we create a buffer zone, like a staging area before distribution? The twins paused to think, and AJ could see Folake's tension ease as recognition appeared on their faces. The staging area can prevent issues from spreading, Nathan suggested slowly. And we can check for errors and handle exceptions in a separate thread, Ethan added. AJ had not considered this angle yet, but it made sense immediately. Great idea, yes. Nathan picked up his shake, followed shortly by Ethan. Folake beamed at that and at AJ. Then her eyes shifted. AJ turned to see Cindy bringing a basket of fries to a nearby table. Her gaze lingered on their table, and when their eyes met, she smiled. Later, as they were getting ready to leave, Folake gently touched his arm. Thank you, she said softly, for what you're doing for them. No problem, he replied. They're helping me too. What they're doing is really impressive, she frowned. You have to let me pay you. No, I don't, he smiled. Like I said, this helps me. Still, she crossed her arms, frowning. What if something fantastic happens and they make a fortune from this? AJ laughed, remembering his own dreams once, which now felt distant. Okay, he agreed, amused and shaking his head. If that's the case, I'll want 10%. Agreed, Ethan chimed in from behind him. Nathan nodded in agreement. Agreed. I was just joking, guys, AJ said quickly. We're not, Nathan replied, surprising AJ by meeting his gaze. Folake smiled at AJ's bewildered face. That's their deal with you. My deal is that you get a milkshake and sandwich every session, and it counts retroactively. She went off to talk to Cindy, and AJ watched them laughing and glancing at him with smiles. Despite his protests, Folake handed him a card. The twins wrapped up their laptops and put on their jackets. They wore their headphones and waited patiently for their mother. AJ joined them. We'll run tests over the next 2 days, Nathan said. Send me the results, AJ replied. We will, Ethan promised. The silence was comfortable. Folake and Cindy shared one last laugh before Folake returned, putting her card holder away. So there, Folake said. You get 10% sandwiches and amazing milkshakes. AJ rolled his eyes. She chuckled. It gets better. Cindy said she's offering everything at half price, so you can have 2 milkshakes and 2 sandwiches per session, or you can come over and eat twice. Your choice. He sighed, accepting his fate. Then he said, Ishi. She laughed. Don't tell me, do you know someone Yoruba? Yes, he said. Growing up, I knew Mr. and Mrs. Ojabola. We were friends with their son, Dele. They taught me how to eat very spicy food. She shrugged. We're known for that. Then she grinned. But honestly, Your accent needs work. It's not great. He laughed. Ouch. Surprisingly, recalling her comment about his Italian accent only made the weight in his chest shift slightly. Seriously, though, Folake said, her eyes glistening. Thank you. Thank you so much for being so patient and kind with my boys. AJ felt his face get warm with embarrassment. It's my pleasure. Really. It's an honor to work with them. What they are doing is amazing, and how they do it is beautiful. Folake kept smiling and tilted her head. Speaking of beautiful, you know Cindy likes you, right? This change in topic surprised him. What? Really? Folake rolled her eyes. You're smart, and you can't see something so obvious? He looked at Cindy, who was busy with a customer, thinking back to the past few weeks since the letter from Morocco. Or maybe you can't see clearly right now, Folake said, her gaze filled with understanding. After everything that happened. Why? He asked, suddenly recalling another woman who had spoken gently to him and offered him a beautifully written note. Folake looked puzzled. Why what? Why does Cindy like me? He met her eyes. I'm just me. Folake stared at him for a long moment, a frown on her face. Then she spoke softly but firmly. Maybe it's because she sees the good and kind man I see. The one who keeps a promise to two autistic boys and supports them even after facing a great loss. She leaned in closer. I know you have a past here, so being here must be hard for you, yet you still come to help my sons without any complaints. So, I'm nice? AJ frowned. I help people when I can? That's just basic, that's not enough. You're wrong if you think that, Folake said, stopping to gather her thoughts. If you think you're just basic. AJ frowned even more in confusion. Marina? What about her? Folake looked away, arms crossed, then took a deep breath and considered him. You're the reason Marina isn't here. I don't understand, AJ said, feeling uneasy. I didn't do anything to Marina. Yes, you did, Folake said, shaking her head, without even trying. I still don't understand, he repeated. She's my brother Femi's wife, Folake explained after a pause. He's at sea for months. She came to tell me she thought she was developing feelings for you. AJ's mouth dropped open. But I know, Folake replied. But she has been watching you be kind and supportive with our boys. After losing your fiancé, you're funny, charming, and intelligent. While you may not be Tyler Dane, you're certainly not unattractive. Memories flickered for a moment, as he recalled the comfort of Amia's hugs when everything seemed right. He then thought of Marina, the shy smiles she gave him, her light touches, and the farewell hug that lingered. Folake continued. She feels lonely and knows you are single. She wants to be around you. She came to me in tears yesterday because she wanted to wear something nice for you today. How is this happening? AJ looked at Folake. I promise you, I would never. I know. It's not about you. It's her, Folake said tiredly. But I also understand that Marina cares about my brother and doesn't want to hurt him. That's why I had to take a day off, to help her steer clear of you. AJ started, then stopped. What was he apologizing for? I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything, Folake raised an eyebrow. Especially not to Marina. I shouldn't have shared all that. Maybe I'm not aware, he countered. But I'm not naive. No, Folake agreed. You're not, unless you keep thinking you're not someone any woman would want. He smiled at her teasing tone. Any woman? There you go, Folake laughed. Being charming. She raised her eyebrows. And yes, I think you could be trouble for me. She playfully wagged her finger. Now don't let that go to your head, Mr. Smith. He pretended to pop a balloon of his pride. Pop. She laughed again and squeezed his hand. You're a good man, John Smith. He felt genuinely moved. Thank you. She turned back to her boys, who were deep in their own quiet conversation. He noticed their headphones were actually synced, with tiny microphones clipped to their collars. Come on, boys, we need to go. He watched them leave before stepping up to the counter. Cindy looked up, saw him, and smiled. Hey, Cindy said, still smiling. Need anything else? Just wanted to say thanks for the sandwich. You're welcome. And remember, you have a tab now. 8 of each, she said with a wider smile. So you don't have to wait for the twins to come here and eat. AJ felt a change in his chest as he recognized the warmth in her gaze that he had overlooked before. He thought of Marina and Folake's words, of Deborah and Greta telling him something different from what his past life had shown him. He thought of Amaya, and for some reason, Belly. How is this happening? And you can have something other than a sandwich and leave your tab untouched if you'd let me cook you dinner, Cindy offered. I make very good pasta. That sounds nice, he replied, looking at her with curiosity. Look, Cindy said softly. Let me be honest. I like you and want to spend time together. You're probably not ready for a serious relationship, and I have my own situation, so this would be casual. How is this happening? To me. He raised an eyebrow. Just casual? Well, no, Cindy said. I haven't been close to anyone for a while. I'm guessing you haven't since Amaya, and I really like you as a person. I've developed feelings for you, so while it may not be just casual, I know I want to spend time with you. Tonight. He looked at her, noticing her hands were shaking a little and her cheeks were warm. Do I still get dinner? She smiled, her nervousness fading. You'll also get breakfast. Belly didn't sleep well. She woke up several times at night to check if his car was parked next to the small white hatchback. Each time she looked out, her heart raced, but the spot was still empty. She first noticed his gray sedan was missing around 10 o'clock while she was saying goodbye to her Aunt Kate and her mother. Her younger sister had come over to chat and tease about their brother-in-law. She told herself he was just working late, probably driving home from Sutton. It felt strange to think of her family's Bedan breakfast as home for him, but she tried not to think about it anymore. She stayed up binge-watching a thriller series on her tablet since it was a Friday night. After finishing the 3rd episode just after midnight, she looked out her window again. Her heart sank. He still wasn't back. She tried to call, but decided to text instead. Out late? Let me know when you're home. Around 2 in the morning, she woke from a restless sleep and saw he hadn't replied. She peeked out the window and noticed his car was still absent. She thought about calling him again, but stopped herself. He's an adult, she reminded herself. He doesn't need to explain where he is. By 4 in the morning, her worry turned into a strange feeling in her stomach. She couldn't shake the thought that he might be spending the night with someone else. She lay staring at the ceiling, feeling angry at herself for being so upset and frustrated with him. For what? For finding someone to be with? Because she was too cautious? Again? Tears filled her eyes as she buried her face in her pillow, ashamed of her feelings for a man who clearly only thought of her as a friend. But he acknowledged my feelings, she recalled. And when we were filling out the forms, she remembered the moment their eyes had locked just before Petra interrupted them. Eventually, weariness pulled her into a light sleep, and she awoke to birds singing and sunlight streaming in. A quick glance at her phone showed it was just past 6. She got out of bed and checked the window. His car was still missing. Her heart raced, and she felt a pain in her chest. She sat down heavily on her bed, covering her face. Thoughts of him struggling mixed with images of him happy with someone else, which hurt her less. Both ideas caused her pain, but the latter was easier to bear. Then she caught sight of something sparkling in the morning light. Looking out again, she saw his gray sedan pulling into the parking lot. As he stepped out, she could see from a distance that he was okay. Before she knew it, she was out of her room and heading down the stairs of the cottage. She quickly put on a coat, zipping it up to stay warm. She entered through the back door and found him just as he was unlocking room 103. "You're just getting in?" He turned and looked at her, showing no guilt, just mild surprise. "Hey, Belly. Yeah." "I was worried," she admitted, hating how her voice shook. "You didn't reply to my text." He frowned and apologized. "Sorry, I didn't see it. You wanted to talk?" "No," she answered, perhaps too quickly. "I mean, yes, about the coding battalion meeting today." Getting all the parents to agree to let their kids come in on Saturdays had proven just as hard as convincing the kids. He had said he couldn't do 2 weekdays, and Allison had quickly offered to come on Saturdays. The others agreed, and he accepted the plan. This Saturday, the meeting was set for 2 in the afternoon instead of 11, which led to some grumbling, but not much. How easily he managed to get them to agree, even Allison Jongpark, amazed her. He turned to her. Yes? What is it? That's when she caught a sweet scent in the air. Oh my. Her heart sank and she forgot her reason for confronting him. You stayed the night somewhere? He looked at her, his expression uncertain. Yes, a friend's place. A woman? She pressed, finding it hard to hold back. Yes. His face showed no strong feelings, maybe a bit puzzled by her question. Then he smiled. Oh, I think I found a place to move to. Close. Belly felt dizzy. She had feared this, but hearing him confirm it, it was hard to breathe. I see. Are you okay? He asked, frowning again. Yes, she said, lying. I was just worried, that's all. She wrapped her arms around herself. I'm glad you're safe. Safe? She nodded weakly. He studied her closely now, and she forced herself to look him in the eyes, hoping he couldn't see how close she was to breaking down. Thank you for caring, he said softly. She nodded jerkily and turned away. She needed to leave before she lost it. I have to go get ready for school. He looked surprised. The battalion, right? It's Saturday and we don't meet till 2 today, remember? Then he smiled. And I have a surprise. I need to go, John, she said firmly. She didn't look back as she left, not wanting to see if he was watching her walk away. Once she was back in her room, she sat down against the wall and let the tears fall. Oh my. He had spent the rest of the day at the Flavor Bomb working on his laptop. People glanced at him curiously as he worked on his projects. That's super nerdy, Cindy had said as she brought him a milkshake. Cherry cookie dough, new flavor. Give it a try. He took a sip and responded, This is amazing, she smiled. For that, it's free today. You'll need your energy. He smiled back and kept working. He video called Juan, who was grinning. Linda was beside him, looking just as happy. I guess everything is on track? One knock, ready to go, Linda cheered. Brandon and Chike popped into the frame to agree. No issues? He asked. Juan shook his head. We had a minor issue with the core switch on one rack, but Brandon fixed it, and we duplicated the solution elsewhere. Great. Linda playfully ruffled Brandon's hair, and he pretended to fight her off. We had some trouble with the firewall on the last rack, but Chike solved it. It was a different model, but we got it working too, Juan said proudly. Great job, he replied, feeling pleased not just with their accomplishments, but because they would be together later to celebrate. Brandon confirmed they would all meet at 9 o'clock the next morning. He thanked them and ended the call, hearing their playful jeers about him setting up the backup NOC. Next, he focused on grading the assignments from the coding battalion. He paid more attention to their use of naming, comments, and indentation than just the code itself. Allison had strong views about using spaces instead of tabs for indentation and convinced some of her teammates to see her point. Kevin and Lisa were already creating acronyms for the commenting system along with a glossary, while Henry started building a library of utility functions for everyone to use. Allison insisted on joining Henry's effort and tried to take over. To everyone's surprise, Henry calmly asked her to step back, and she actually did, making suggestions instead of demands. Ruchi joined their work too. The assignment was done in pairs, with one member coding while the other observed, managed documentation, logged errors, and came up with possible solutions. They switched roles for the next question. He noted the submission times, confirming what he had suspected about each battalion member's home situation. He smiled while reviewing Tommy and Sarah's submission, thinking their meeting the next day would be interesting. Finished with the battalion's work, he returned to the Abrams Twins project, or rather a part of it. Inspired by Henry's library, he decided to compile a library of functions to address the twins' concurrent conditional branching problem in both AX and Zebra. The twins quickly accepted Cobra when he shared it, optimizing and adding comments, tags, and fixing his indentation quite a compliment. He grinned and began adding the staging area and off-thread error handling. Just then, Cindy came by, and he noticed he was the only visitor left. She leaned down. I'll clean up first, then we can go. Can I help? She laughed. Of course, but you're already helping just by being here. He chuckled and stood up, folding the extended screens and closing his laptop. Thanks for telling me, but I still want to help. She smiled fondly and shook her head. I know. That's why I like having you around. He squinted playfully. What do you mean by that? You should be happy, she teased, and I expect you to help with cleaning. I'm in, he replied, just as playful. What about the supplies? All set, let's just finish up. That morning, he took a shower at her place, enjoying the moment as she helped him clean up. He thought he might get some curious looks because her bath wash had a unique floral scent, but he didn't mind. Afterward, he enjoyed a delicious breakfast of eggs Neptune, pancakes, and great coffee. He then drove Cindy to the Flavor Bomb since they had used his car to get to her place. She told him she really enjoyed their night together before saying goodbye. It made him happy, and he grinned as he drove back to Millie and Milton's. He had truly enjoyed his time with Cindy. The Flavor Bomb's kitchen was small but well organized and clean even before the night's cleanup, thanks to Cindy's careful approach. The cooks had left before she could decide to finish the cleaning, and AJ was unsure if the two young men had even seen him in their rush to head home. With practiced speed, she had finished the floor before AJ was done wiping down the tables. She asked him to take out the trash, which required 3 trips. By the time he returned, she had cleaned every surface and was turning off the lights. Afterward, she smiled at him in appreciation as he washed his hands. Later, he leaned in to give her a kiss, which started as a simple gesture but quickly became something deeper as they enjoyed each other's company. As they spent time together, laughter filled the air, showing their strong friendship and excitement for their work in cooking. He noticed she had matching tattoos on her shoulder, belly, and thigh. He wasn't sure if he liked the thorny vine and rose design, but he admired her figure. They shared a close moment, feeling a spark as they enjoyed their time alone together. He pulled back, surprised by how intense the moment felt, needing a moment to gather his thoughts. She looked at him, curious and a bit confused. Their conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter as they embraced this new connection. I'm never going to see this place the same way again, she said with a chuckle, remembering their earlier fun. That was enjoyable, she added, a playful smile on her face. He felt a little surprised by how relaxed he was, realizing how quickly their relationship had changed. I wasn't expecting that, she admitted with a thoughtful look. I'm going to have to clean up after this, she said with a playful gesture. Can I help? He asked. No, she laughed. You being here is how all this started. He smiled, feeling the playful vibe between them. After a while, they returned to her apartment, sharing an easy moment as they cleaned up from earlier. She promised him dinner, and he helped her in the kitchen while enjoying light-hearted banter. Their time together was filled with laughter as they cooked, with him playfully distracting her from the meal. Eventually, they settled in a cozy setting to share a meal, music playing softly in the background. Later, as they relaxed, he noticed her tracing her fingers lightly on his arm, and he smiled, feeling content. Hi, she greeted him softly. Do you want to talk about something? He asked, sensing she had more to share. After a moment to think, she said, Can we chat for a bit? Of course, he replied. She took a breath and said, I don't think we can do this again. Disappointment washed over him, but he kept it to himself. No, this was one of the best times I've had in a long time, she added, her eyes revealing her feelings. He stayed silent, encouraging her to keep going. It's just that I'm a mom, she explained, glancing at some photos around the room. I saw the pictures, he said gently. What's his name? Her face brightened. Danny. Where is he? With my mom for now, she replied, gesturing toward the photos. I've been staying here to save for a bigger place. I'm moving out in a couple of weeks. Really? He asked, interested as he looked around. Yes, are you looking for a place? Yes. The rent is a bit high, but the utilities are reasonable and it's close to everything. It just isn't big enough for kids. She gestured. If you're interested, I can tell the landlord about you. I'd like that. He smiled. Danny was my dad's name. She sat up, smiling as well. That's great. Then she noticed his gaze wander and playfully rolled her eyes. You men? He shrugged. We can't help it. She laughed and jokingly covered herself with a pillow, chuckling at his overly sad expression. Just let me finish what I need to say, and... She smiled gently. You'll have a chance to enjoy my company more. He made a happy face, which made her laugh again. Okay. She collected her thoughts once more. I want to try and get back with Danny's father. Getting involved with you again will just complicate things. AJ frowned. You were married? To be continued.